they're hinting at more of a Gulf Coast, Florida type of season versus East Coast, meaning the Bermuda High could be closer to us. And I know people in the Carolinas immediately go, great, fewer storms. The problem is,
Big, deep breath.
yeah, for the Western Carolinas, our biggest storms come in from the Gulf Coast. So I could think of every flash flood, tornado outbreak from a tropical system. It didn't come from a storm coming from our coast. It came from the Florida Panhandle, the Alabama Gulf Coast, sometimes the Louisiana Gulf Coast, and puts us on the east side, or the dirty side of the storm, which is a really cool term we like to say. But Brittany, kind of explain what the dirty side of the storm means.
Well, it's essentially the front. We always say, you hear northeast quadrant, right front quadrant. Essentially, yes, if you were looking at a piece of paper, north, south, east, west, where they're normally oriented, it would be in the northeastern side. Now, of course, that depends on the angle of approach. If a storm's directly making a northerly turn, that's different, of course, in northeast. And it's, but regardless, if those storms are making landfall somewhere along the Gulf Coast, so pretty much from the Big Bend of Florida over toward Louisiana, we're either on the east side, the northeast side, either way, dirty side.
Yeah.
Normally, we have your strongest wind there. And also because of the drag of a tropical system's outer bands, essentially as it moves over land, you also get more spin, typically more wind shear, which allows for more tornadoes. And last year, some of the strongest tropical tornadoes that had ever happened in Florida happened in like the West Palm area.
Yeah.
So it does seem like with this, there's not a lot of data since like satellite era was only in the 60s. And of course, we haven't had as many major hurricanes and Category 4s and 5s as we have the last few years and last decade or two. But there's more data that's starting to come in that the stronger, of course, the storm, the worse those tropical tornadoes can be.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember my second week here, 2021 August, Greenville Spartanburg, our local forecast office, issued like the most tornado warnings they'd ever issued in one day for our area.
That was Fred.
Because of Tropical Depression Fred.
Yeah.
So also goes to show you that just because it's a depression does not mean that.
I remember that day.
Yeah.
36 tornado warnings in a single day. And that was from a storm that came up from the Panhandle. Mm-hmm. I think of Ivan. I think of Francis, Faye.
You guys had impacts from
Gustav.
Michael, too, in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Michael, Category 5 storm, makes landfall in Florida, caused widespread power outages here. Almost, I think, 2 million people lost power because the winds were so strong up here. So that's just something to think about as we get into the hurricane season. I know there's a lot of focus on the Carolina coast. And if for folks watching out there, you need to pay attention. And if you have beach property, yes. But here, the Gulf is a big part of that as well. So we're going to talk more about this over the next couple of weeks. But don't go anywhere. Coming up in 2 minutes, Colin will have more with Impact News.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Coming back here on WCNC Plus, I'm Colin Mayfield inside the Impact Studio. There's been a lot of headlines today, but really around the world, one of the biggest discussions and the stories that's really taking over headlines and news stations really all over the country and really across the world is the Air India accident that killed more than 240 people. And we're learning that one man survived from this. People are still trying to figure out how. It seems like here in the United States, the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy and the acting Federal Aviation Administration head, they made comments at a news conference earlier today after seeing the videos and the crash in India. And the discussion is, these Boeing planes, are they safe to fly on? So they touched on that and discussed their views here in the United States. Let's go to it now.
I am here with the acting administrator of the FAA, Chris Rushalow. Today we want to talk about, give you an update on Newark. We have some telecom updates we want to deliver as well, and have a conversation about the big beautiful bill and how it relates to air traffic control and its modernization. But first, as we've watched the news today, we've seen what's happened in India with Air India Flight 171. Our hearts go out to the families of the victims who lost loved ones on that flight. At DOT and at the FAA, safety always comes first. And in this investigation, we are going to follow the facts. As the acting administrator will discuss, we're in the process of deploying a team from the FAA, from the NTSB. We also have GE and Boeing that are deploying their resources and investigators to India. I'll just note that India leads the investigation. We're there to provide any assistance that India may need as they go through which appears to be a somewhat lengthy investigation on this crash. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the acting administrator, Chris Rushalow, before we get into Newark Telecom and air traffic control modernization. Chris?
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. So again, like the Secretary said, I just want to say how deeply saddened we are by the crash in India today. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families who lost loved ones. As always, safety is paramount. We're going to follow the facts where this investigation takes us, and that's why we're working closely with the National Transportation Safety Board to investigate the cause of the crash. Now, FAA investigators are deploying to India. We are prepared to send additional resources to support the investigation as it continues. We want to ensure the safety of the traveling public. I had the opportunity today to speak with my counterpart in India, the Director General of Aviation, and I offered him our full support as the investigation continues. I also want to explain briefly how the process works. We've been invited through a formal request to be part of the NTSB investigation, and we have FAA experts as part of that overall team going in to look at different factors that may be related to the cause of the crash. As NTSB leads the investigation, we will not hesitate to mitigate any risks we identify in that process. But I want to reiterate, it's very important to note, this is very early in the investigation. And so it's not appropriate for speculation at this time on what could have caused the investigation. As the Secretary said, we will let the facts lead us, and we will support the NTSB investigation and, of course, the Indian investigation as well, their version of NTSB. So that's what I've got on that right now, sir.
And maybe just to reiterate, if there are initial factors of concern in regard to safety, as the administrator noted, we will be made aware and we will take action, because for us, safety is paramount. But whenever one of these planes go down, we take it very seriously and deploy every asset and resource at our avail to assist in those investigations. I'll just note that I just want to commend the FAA. Their team is readily deployable. They are ready at a moment's notice. They have a go bag. They have vaccinations. They're remarkable in how they operate. So kudos to your team. Thank you, Acting Director. Want to move to Newark. Just to give you guys some background and where we're at and where we're going. Many of you know that we had a runway under construction That runway, by the great work of the Port Authority, was completed almost 2 weeks ahead of schedule. That allowed us to shift and increase the number of flights that came out of Newark. Right now, we were at 28 flights per hour. We've now moved that to 34. That was able to happen after that runway was not just completed, but the FAA certified the runway. In addition, we had a telecom problem. You saw and reported on the outages. We had a 30-second outage a couple of times, as well as the scopes went down and had a reboot, so their outage was 90 seconds. Verizon has done great work, record speed. They've laid a new fiber line for us between the Philly TRACON that controls the Newark airspace and N90, which is in New York. They've made this a top priority. Though that line has been laid, we go through extensive testing at the FAA, so that line is not live yet. That line we expect in late June, later this month or early July, that line will go live. But we also had an issue with how our software program had a glitch in it. So that software at the Philly TRACON was remedied, was fixed, and things have been operating relatively smoothly at Newark. The third component of the problem at Newark has been controllers. We're understaffed with air traffic controllers. We're short 3,000 air traffic controllers in the country right now. In Newark, at the Philly TRACON, we have 22 air traffic controllers. We had several that were on leave. The FAA has deployed another 22 controllers to the Philly TRACON. Now, these aren't just controllers that are coming out of the academy. Most of these controllers had been previously certified in different airspaces. So we anticipate that over the next several months, on a rolling basis, these newly deployed controllers in Philly will be certified in the airspace and be able to fully function as air traffic controllers, again, alleviating the pressure that we've seen from a lack of air traffic controller employees operating the Newark airspace. So basically, we had three things, all three components from the runway to the telecom to the air traffic controllers. They're either completed or they're on the version of being completed. And I just want to take a note that, and this is no offense to the FAA, Chris, but they don't always move at the fastest speed. They don't always get the best engagement from companies that do business with them. And you see right now that we have CEO-level engagement with all of these companies. They understand how important aviation is to the American economy, to the American flying public, to delivering goods around the country. And so because we've had that engagement, and we've had great leadership at the FAA, you have seen problems that would take months or years to fix are being fixed in very short order. And I'm proud of that, and I think that's indicative of what you're going to see happen should we get the resources in the big, beautiful bill that's being debated right now, which I'm going to come to that in a second. But before I do that, I just want to talk about telecom. So most of our system is run on copper wires. Copper is old, copper is inefficient. Most of the rest of the world and the country have moved to fiber. But because we're one of the last institutions on copper, our telecom providers were charging us obsolescence fees, and they were able to do that per their contract. No one ever questioned it. Well, we have worked with our telecom providers, Lumen, AT&T, Verizon, L3 Harris, and other smaller providers to get them to stop charging us the obsolescence fees. Now, you might not think that's a big deal, but it was running to the tune of almost $800 million a year in obsolescence fees. Not in total telecom, just in the obsolescence fees. And so a lot of the FAA budget was being depleted because, and it's not just FAA, it's not just telecom, it was in all portions of this really old system. A lot of our money is depleted in keeping old systems functioning as opposed to being able to invest in new state-of-the-art systems. And so I just want to take a moment and thank and commend our telecom providers for giving us this break, not charging us the obsolescence fees, because they understand how important this build is for the American people. And the money that we save by not paying that additional cash to telecom is money that we have to invest in fiber, and the rest of our network. And so I want to thank them for that. In regard to the big, beautiful bill, this is important. This is the only vehicle that is running that can fund air traffic control, is the big, beautiful bill. And I think it's actually the great, big, beautiful bill. The name changed today at the press conference, the great, big, beautiful bill. And in that, we have $12.5 billion that has been allocated for modernization of our airspace. And really important because what it's going to do is it's going to fund the transition from copper to fiber, right? So we're going to, and that's across the NAS, across the country. It's going to include radios and voice switches as well. In addition, it has money for brand new radar, all really important parts of how our navigation system works. We're working with the Senate right now because the guts of how air traffic control works, the hardware and the software of the system, we don't have money in the bill there. We don't have money in the bill yet for that. But I've had active conversations with the Senate. They understand the problem. We're discussing with them additional dollars so we can actually deploy this other part that's really important to our air traffic control system, to build it brand new, to make it state-of-the-art, to deploy every tool at our disposal into the air system, and again, make it more efficient. It's complicated right now. It's only going to get more complicated. Again, there's more need for more planes, more routes, but we also are going to have drones and eVTOLs that are going to be deployed into the airspace. And so I want to lend my complete support for the big, beautiful bill. Again, if this doesn't pass, we are going to do nothing on air traffic control modernization. If this passes, we can start this process right now. We just had an industry day, 2 days of industry day, where we have brought, we don't sell tickets, but if we did, it would be sold out. We had a lot of participation. This room was full. We had full viewers on our video link. But industry is getting involved, helping us think through whether we're doing it right. Do they have other better ideas for us? Getting feedback, pressure testing from industry on how best to deploy this brand new system and give us advice. And that went really, really well. And we appreciate their participation. But we at DOT and FAA, we are ready to rock. We are ready to go. We're just waiting for the money. And if the big, beautiful bill doesn't pass, we don't have the money, and we're going to continue to use the same system without any change that I think we've seen failing over the course of the last months, but also the last years. And so I would hope that the Senate and the House work together and they think through how. And I know there's a lot of other really important components of the bill, but for us, this is the most important. And I would argue that I think the American people would agree. Funding a modernization, a brand new air traffic control system is of utmost importance, making sure we're driving safety and efficiency. We don't get that efficiency. We don't have the brand new system without this big, beautiful bill passing. And again, I'm hopeful, and I actually feel really good about it, the positive conversations we've had with the Senate to have them put in even more money to get us this full rounded system that's going to make the American airspace the best in the world. With that, happy to take any questions you may have, and if I can't answer them, I'm going to pass them to Chris. Or if I can and I don't want to answer them, I'll pass it to Chris too. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, guys, on the air current. So, you're talking about potentially asking more money from the Senate. Do you envision that potentially being a lot of money if they were appropriated, or potentially in another vehicle that will come later? I'm just kind of curious.
So I need this in the big, beautiful bill. Now, I imagine there'll be more that'll have to come later as well. I would like it all in one lump sum. More will have to come at a later point. But we can start, if we get another $9 billion, we can start a big part of this process. And then we can wait for another vehicle in the future to give us the rest of the money. But we have to be able to start and run all these different work streams. Again, telecom radar, and then our common automation platform.
So just to clarify, you're effectively asking, correct me if I'm wrong, almost double their original, what they were appropriating initially, or $9 billion and 12.5, right?
Listen, we're going to work with them, but this next tranche is really important to start this process. And again, this is important, but we have to think through it, because we do need to rebuild some of our towers and our TRACONs. And we'd like another, the Senate version has one TRACON, we'd like to have another TRACON as well, maybe even a third TRACON. But again, there's money to move around in the package that they're working on, and again, we've actively and aggressively worked with the Senate, and they get it just like all of us understand it. Yes.
So is that correct that we should think of this as you're looking for 12.5 plus another 8 or 9, so somewhere in the $20 billion range you'd like to see in the bill?
And yes, in the big beautiful bill. Yep. That's we want to see those numbers. And again, we can start if they don't give it to us. We got great work we can do, but we want a holistic approach here. And then after that, we'll have to come back for even more. Maybe it's a year and a half later to do the last phase of this build. But we are incredibly confident in the conversations we've had that we can do this on budget and on time. Again, there's a lot. The Congress does not have a lot of faith in the FAA. You just go back to Next Gen, and there was a lot of money that was spent and not a lot of deliverables. And I think if you look at what happened at Newark, you look at how fast we're engaging, the kind of involvement we have from CEOs. And it's not just about their companies. It is in part, but it's about America. These are companies that care about the airspace, care about our country. They want us to be successful. You have a president that's engaged. You have a chairman in the House and the Senate, both engaged. You have never. This is a moment in time that you have never seen. This is the time to do it. And again, we'll start with what we get, which this start is really important. A little more would be even better. We'll come back and get the rest later if we have to. Yeah, just sure.
The Army, real quick. So yesterday, the acting administrator and the Army and the NTSB briefed the Senate about this memorandum agreement with the Army. Senator Moran said. This is something you talked about, that this agreement that 3-star generals and some lower-level officers will no longer be taking Army transport around the area, and they'll be limited to much more senior officers. Are you satisfied with how this agreement is going to look? Do you think you can safely re-integrate helicopters into the airspace, and can you address these changes around the today?
Well, I'll let the acting administrator address that first, and I'll come back later because he was actually in the meeting.
Thank you, sir. And thanks for the question. So right now, just so we're clear, the Army's not flying in that airspace. And they won't fly in that airspace until we are able to sit down, finalize that memorandum of agreement, and make sure that we are comfortable from a safety standpoint that they are ready to proceed. So right now, they're not flying. We're not letting them fly until we fix that MOA. And at this time, I feel like we're in a good place with the Army. In terms of our communication, our collaboration, that's going well. But they won't be flying until certainly me and my team are satisfied, and we'll obviously confer and coordinate with the Secretary to make sure that we are all on the same page when we allow for a resumption of activities or operations.
I wanted to ask, Allison Burchell from Newsweek News, I wanted to ask for a clarification on the 34 arrival rate. Did that take effect today, or was it earlier this week?
What was the
Last
date?
week.
Last week, was it? Yeah. It was last week upon certification. So the runway was completed, but the FAA had to certify that it was certify the runway. And so when that happened, and I think you did that early as well, that was supposed to take 9 to 10 days. I think you did it in 7 or 6? 6 days. So again, people are moving very quickly, again, always with the backdrop of safety, but moving quickly to make sure we can accommodate the traveling public and safely in spaces like Newark.
Okay. But the specific day when that higher rate kicked in was
When we finally certified the landing system there on the second runway. So
was that Friday? Last Friday, or?
I'll get you the specific date. It was a week ago. I believe it was Friday.
Okay.
Some people are shaking their heads on the side here, so Friday.
Okay.
But we'll confirm that with you. Yeah.
Yeah, Ian Duncan with the Washington Post. So lawyers for Sam Salapur, who was a whistleblower from Boeing, who made some claims about manufacturing problems with the 787, they said today they've sent a letter to the FAA saying there's a completed and unreleased investigation that substantiates some of his claims about risk to the plane. Can you tell us what that investigation found, or if you're prepared to kind of release any of the findings?
Yeah, I'm not aware of the letter that was sent. I'm certainly happy to take a look at that and confer with our counsel to see what we know about it, but I haven't received a letter today.
And just on the Air India crash, I mean, you said you're prepared to mitigate any safety issues that you find. I take it that where we stand today, you haven't seen anything that would lead you to think the 787 fleet needs to be grounded or anything like that.
I'd start with it's so preliminary, and we've seen the video on the dramatic video of the tragic crash. We have assembled a team, an expert team, to work with the NTSB and with the Indian authorities to investigate that. My point earlier was, as we proceed down this road with the investigation itself, if there's any information that becomes available to us regarding any risk, we will mitigate those risks immediately.
Time for one more, guys.
So, meaning we don't keep that quiet. We don't, wait 2 years for a report to be released and then make safety changes. If there's a need for a change due to something that we learn on this crash, new information, we make those changes immediately because, again, safety is the top priority. Yes.
Just to put a finer point on that, there's nothing now that there's lots of people flying in 787s around the world right now.
Absolutely.
There's no indication.
No indication. Yeah, but we have no preliminary information. I just talked to Chair Hamidi from the NTSB today. We don't have that information yet. It's very new. Our teams are just going to deploy right now. As the acting administrator mentioned, we were invited to come over by India. They're good partners of ours. We work together really well. So they have to get on the ground and take a look. But again, right now it would be way too premature. Again, people are looking at
All right, we will cut into this a little bit early, but if you would like to see it, you can download WCNC Plus if you haven't done so already, and watch this back on our streaming, as we had this a little bit earlier today with Jane Monreal and Nick Sturdivant. We have an amazing guest in town, and we know the Charlotte Checkers are getting ready to start their quest for the Calder Cup Finals. TJ Charlotte is here with me, a broadcasting specialist. He'll be on the call for the foreseeable future for this round of the finals. And I think a lot of folks are excited, man, to have just a playoff atmosphere. Now we're in the finals, obviously, something that we don't normally see in Charlotte or haven't seen in quite some time. But there's a lot happening on the ice. So, TJ, set the stage for us. Starts tomorrow. And the Abbotsford Canucks, what are the big things that stick out to you ahead of tomorrow's game?
I think the first thing that sticks out to me is simply the fact that this is the Checkers' second Calder Cup postseason run that's gone into the Calder Cup finals in the last 6 years. Yeah. 2 of those years, the cup was not even awarded due to COVID and things like that. So it just goes to show you that this team, through an affiliation change, new coach comes in, all new players come in, it's just dedicated to winning no matter who has been here in Charlotte. And I think that's the first big takeaway. If you're a fan of the Charlotte Checkers, you're going to get a team that's going to lay it out there every single night for you and be competitive. They've been in the playoffs the last 7 straight years, which means there's always hope to get to this point. So we're really excited. The buzz around this team is amazing, and we're having a lot of fun with this. So hopefully we can come out on top.
Yeah, so games 1 and 2 going to be taking place at the Coliseum. You were talking about some interesting things a little bit earlier before we hit the air, talking about some of the events that are already happening at the Coliseum, how that could change the game. You don't have to delve into it too much if you want to give the opposing side some interesting things to think about, but it will be an interesting setup for folks, especially having that ice underneath some of those events, and then now getting ready, because I think the game is tomorrow for 7 p.m. So what does it look like in terms of getting the Coliseum back in shape for a hockey game after all of these graduation, those type of events that are happening at the Coliseum there?
We have a great crew at the Bowplex. Tony Caddy, who's our head ice technician, makes sure that ice is taken care of as best as he possibly can. There's no divots, there's no ruts, nothing like that. There are graduations, and there's been events going on over the last week or so at the Coliseum. And look, no matter what, you're going to have a little bit of a struggle because this is Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're playing hockey into June, which we are so thankful and grateful for. But at the end of the day, it is still June in North Carolina. And the same thing could be said if you look at the Stanley Cup Finals, which they're playing tonight in Florida in Sunrise, just outside of Miami. They are going to be having some issues too. I mean, it is just, you can only do so much with man-made ice, and you can only fight humidity so much. And of course, we want every single person that we possibly can packing that building. It is a sellout tomorrow night, so there's going to be a lot of bodies. There's going to be a lot of warmth. I'm sure we're going to be taxing that ice plant a little bit to keep the ice in perfect shape, but it's certainly going to be playable. It's just something that both teams are going to have to adapt to. For the non-hockey fans out there listening, I kind of always equate it to playing football in the rain. It's not ideal. It's a little bit sloppy, but it is something that both teams have to deal with. So you got to roll.
Yeah, I think obviously, the Checkers kind of understand, right? So maybe they'll have an advantage here, but I think either team's going to have to, in real time, figure out what the game plan might be depending on what the ice might look like. So that might just be a small factor. Any other things that I guess stick out to you tomorrow? These teams match up really well, it seems like, right?
Yeah, both of these teams are built from the back end out. So goaltending and defense is where they start for both of these teams. I think the Checkers have a little bit of an edge in terms of offense, particularly with their depth. When you look at Abbotsford, they have some higher scorers in terms of individual numbers here in the postseason than what the Charlotte Checkers have, but after those guys, it kind of falls off the table a little bit. It's a little bit more on average to the rest of the league, whereas the Charlotte Checkers, it seems like they are pretty well level with everybody. The leading points getter on this team only has 10 points. Now the Checkers have only played in 12 games in the postseason, so just shy of a point per game. It's not too shabby here in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, this is a team, the Charlotte Checkers, who are built with depth in mind, and anybody can score, anybody can be the hero, and I would not be surprised if all things go well at the end of this series. We're talking about maybe a guy that right now that I'm sitting here isn't coming to mind. It's one of those things where the hero could truly be anyone. When I look at Abbotsford, they're a team that the Checkers have never played, technically. They came into the league as the Abbotsford Canucks 4 years ago. The last time the Charlotte Checkers played a Utica affiliate would have been 5 years ago. A Vancouver affiliate would have been 5 years ago, the Utica Comets, when they were affiliated. Since then, there's been some shuffling. Now, the Checkers did play the old Abbotsford Heat when they were affiliated with the Calgary Flames at that time, but it was a totally different front office, different players, and you're going back well over a decade where 90% of the players playing in the game tomorrow were not active in pro hockey at that time. So this is basically the first ever meeting between these two teams, both actually and metaphorically in that way. So I'm curious to see what we're going to see, because the one thing that I've noticed over the 4 years I've been here in the American Hockey League is the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference play such a different style of hockey. And you never really quite know which one's going to come out on top. You can look at the Calder Cup champions and see Hershey last year and the year before, but then it was Chicago the year before that, and then you'd have to go back to the Charlotte Checkers. So 3 out of the last 4 times the Calder Cup has been handed out, it's gone to an Eastern Conference team. So the Checkers are, of course, hoping to continue that trend, as they do like to play a little bit more physical and a little bit faster. But again, going back to that ice, maybe that's kind of a little bit of a neutralizer, slows down some of those quicker feet.
Right. Interesting stuff. So as you alluded to, really, there's hero stars all over, right? John Leonard, Trevor Carrick, Zach, obviously the captain for a long time. And a lot of folks are going to be focusing on, right, the guy in the goal, the goalie, basically, right? Because that's going to be a lot of pucks are going to be going his way tomorrow. So what are some of the definitive markers that maybe the Abbotsford Canucks might be looking at to take advantage of come tomorrow night, and maybe throughout the entire length of these finals here? What are some things you think they might be keying on?
If I had to put myself in Manny Malhotra's shoes, the head coach of the Abbotsford Canucks, who, by the way, is a former Charlotte Checker. If I had to put myself in his shoes, I think the number one thing for them is going to be get an offense defensive attack that puts more than 30 shots on goal against Kaapo Kähkönen. It's something that he has rarely seen since he came over in the trade earlier this season, and he has not seen in the postseason outside of one game. So through the 12 games the Checkers have played, they've only allowed 30-plus shots in one game. Now, the Checkers did get the victory in that game, so it's not quite the ultimate key to winning the victory and getting that victory, but it is one of the things where you can start to wear them down, especially if you can get 30-plus shots in game one and then come out and do it again in game two. You can start to wear down the defense and you can start to wear down the goaltender, because this is going to be a true goaltending battle. When you look at these two teams and what goalies they're trotting out there, whether it's Kaapo Kähkönen for the Charlotte Checkers, who has a 1.75 goals against average, which is the lowest of any goaltender that's still playing, and obviously there's only a couple of those, but it is second lowest of anybody who has played this postseason. Then you look on the other side with Artur Shilovs. He has 5 shutouts here in the playoffs. He's got the highest save percentage at saving just about 93% of the shots that are thrown his way. It's going to be a very difficult game if you're a forward and you're trying to score on the other team. So for the Charlotte Checkers, if I'm them, I'm expecting a heavy shot amount from Abbotsford, whether that's just throwing the puck from wherever they're at. If they're inside the blue line, just throw it on goal. Anything to just force Kähkönen to make a save and to just keep him on his toes and just keep him rattled as best that they possibly can.
Okay.
I think that's going to kind of be one of the keys.
Which is going to be tough because Kähkönen has seen a lot, obviously, from Finland. Man's like a literal wall out there. I mean, nothing goes past him, it seems like. So, as you pointed out, this roster filled with a litany of guys. The defensemen, I think some of their statistics stand out to me. Obviously, they've really helped bolster, the offensive part of the game and everything else that kind of comes with it. For the Checkers, anything to watch out for there? I mean, those guys are great skaters, clearly, and they're all over the ice as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the keys for the Charlotte Checkers team is the way they're laid out on defense. You've got 6 guys back there. 3 of them are very offensively minded. When you look at Trevor Carrick, who you previously mentioned, who was second on the team in points during the regular season, 5th overall amongst all defensemen in the American Hockey League to end the regular season. And then you have the second-year pro Mike Benning, who's a guy that's been in big stage moments. He won a national championship with Denver just a couple of years ago.
That's right.
Those are guys that love to move the puck. Those are guys that love to fire on goal. But at the same time, you also have your stay-at-home guys who recognize what their job is, and that's to be that true guard in front of the netminder to make sure guys are covered, passing lanes are shut down, you're forcing things to the outside, you're not letting anybody behind you. So, it's a good combination of guys with range, and you have those guys who are more stout, the Miklas Hovorkas of the team, as well as the Matt Kierstead, who's a guy that's been around now for 4 years with the Charlotte Checkers team. He doesn't light up the stat sheet. He's a playmaker in terms of assists, but only had 1 goal during the regular season because he is focused on one thing and one thing only, that's playing defense. And I think when you have that balance, and they can play off each other and have that good harmony, that's what really allows the offensively minded defenseman to jump in on a play and get some points and take those shots and take those risks because they know the guy that they're playing alongside is going to have their back if they vacate their position. And the same thing could be said for the forward groups that are out there. Such an unselfish team. If they see a defenseman step up into the play, somebody is constantly thinking, I've got to get back. We've got to cycle to make sure that we don't allow a hole on our back end for Abbotsford to just shoot right through, and then you end up leaving your goalie, hung out to dry. So it's a very smart, high IQ team, and there's such a good balance of skill players, stout defensemen, speed. It's just so well built.
Well, along with that balance, I think also, right, there seems to be this unmatched synergy with all of these guys. I mean, I know they've played with synergy before, obviously having to go 3 out of 4 years, as you talked about, with that stat being in the playoffs, and then obviously going to a Calder Cup over the last couple of years, a couple of different times as well. They play so well together, and maybe that's the trust that we see on the ice. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's wild about this whole thing is, this team looks so incredibly different now than it did at the start of the year. When you talk about the amount of long-term injuries that have taken guys out of the fray, from Aiden McDonough, who was the leading goal scorer at the point he got hurt in November. Ryan McAllister was top 5 on the team in points when he got hurt for the rest of the year. Mackenzie Entwistle just rejoined the team after being knocked out in November. He played his first game in the last series, and he's got 2 points in 3 games. When you talk about all that change, plus you talk about the acquisitions that were made and the swaps that were made at the deadline, losing Patrick Giles, who was a fan favorite, big-bodied forward, losing him in a trade, but getting back Kaapo Kähkönen. I mean, he played 16 games with the Checkers during the regular season. He was 12-4. He came from a team where he couldn't buy a win. I mean, they were just not as skilled out in front, and it seems like they went out, they found and specifically targeted some of these guys and brought them in. Right. Same thing, C.J. Smith. He was brought over to the team in January after signing from Europe. He was playing over in Europe to start the year, and the Checkers identified him as a guy that formerly played in the American Hockey League, could probably have an impact as a veteran on this team. They bring him in, and he's been a huge piece of this team. I couldn't imagine this team without a guy like that. So when you talk about that next man up mentality, not only these guys that are filling in and joining the team halfway through, it's also every single line seems to pick up the slack a little bit. When one line goes cold, another line is just like, I got you, man. We'll go ahead and shoulder some of the load right now, and then eventually we're going to get to the point where everybody is firing on all cylinders. And fortunately for the Checkers, that happened right before the postseason. So you got to your hats are off to the the director of player personnel in Derek Wilkinson and the Florida Panthers, Bill Zito, their GM there, the Charlotte Checkers coaching staff, and the veteran leaders in that locker room to keep everybody on the same page, because there has been a lot of turnover, and it's not been turnover that you want to see. If you're a losing team and you experience turnover, that's probably because you just don't have it. This has been a team that you think is really set up for success, and then, you lose a handful of guys, and you got to plug those holes, and sure enough, they have not missed a beat.
They've done it, and it's so hard to do. And it's really hard to get all those weaknesses out of a team, which they've done really well in a short amount of time. I'm just looking at the American Hockey League stats, and Abbotsford, the Canucks, they've got Carlson, they've got Baines, and they've got Sammy Blaise, maybe, in the top 10 in terms of points. So, I mean, you got a right wing, a left wing, and then our left wing, obviously, they're going to be keyed on, it sounds like, right? Especially the Checkers. Are they going to be focused on these guys? I mean, you can't take away the prowess of the other guys that are be on the ice as well. But that says something to me, right? To have 3 of those guys in the top 10, that's pretty big.
Yeah, and they're a very potent offense with those 3 guys. But, again, if you can find a way to neutralize them, I don't see the depth on the rest of this team being good enough to, support not getting the points, from those players, the 3 that you just named in particular. Okay. That's the thing where I think the Charlotte Checkers, if you look at the Checkers, I think you would have to go into like the 3rd page on the league stats before you found a Charlotte Checker, not even in the top 20 in scoring in the league. If you neutralize John Leonard, if you neutralize Justin Sordiff, or you neutralize, a Trevor Carrick or a Will Lockwood, there's always going to be someone stepping up. We saw it, Riley Bezo. This is a guy in the Laval series who had 3 goals in those 4 games. He had only played 27 games with the Charlotte Checkers earlier this season, and he is known as a brawler. He's a fighter. He's a guy that goes out there and, kind of plays hard, and that's what he's known for. And here he is scoring goals. I was kind of making the jokes. I was calling him around the office as just, calling him Riley Wayne Gretzky Bezo, because all of a sudden he can score these goals. So it's, it goes back to that next man up mentality, and I just don't see how Abbotsford can match that. Yeah. Yes, they probably have a higher top end, but after that top end, I just don't think they have that consistency that the Checkers have. That's why I think at the end of the series, we're going to be talking about someone like a Riley Bezo. If you would have told me before game 1, hey, Riley Bezo is going to be one of the top scorers in this series, I would have told you were absolutely crazy. Let alone to get 3 goals in 4 games, and 2 goals came in 1 game, and he ended up with the game winner in that game 2 up in Canada. So you never really know who's going to step forward. And On the other side, they're professionals too. So I know that it doesn't look like they have the depth, but they're still obviously a very skilled team. They deserve to be here. They've beaten some of the best teams in the Western Conference, whether you're talking about Coachella Valley, who was in the Calder Cup Finals the last 2 years representing the West. The Colorado Eagles were the top team in the West through the regular season. They eliminated them. They went through a very good Texas team, which if you still have the top 10 scorers in the league open there, I bet you're going to see a lot of Texas stars. Justin Ritzkowian was there, and there's a whole slew of guys. So that was another really good team. So they're primed and ready for this, and that's just what makes this such a good series. I don't think you're going to be able to pick with absolute certainty who's going to win. It's going to be a true test of wills.
Yeah, and we'll see how many games it goes. I think a lot of folks who want to see competition hope it might go all the way to Game 7, but I know there's a lot of work for you and the other teams to do if that happens. So what else am I missing here, TJ? I mean, I know you have your eyes on a lot of different things. I heard you talk about some of the preparations that you have to go through even before tomorrow. So do you want to share anything like that or anything else that I'm missing on for the upcoming game and the Calder Cup Finals?
No, I think, obviously with tomorrow being a sellout, the plan is to get that sold out on Sunday, because those could be the only two home games of this series for the Charlotte Checkers. It's a 2-3-2 series. So if there is a sweep or if it only goes 5 games, we're not coming back to Bojangles Coliseum. So if you want to get out there and see the team for perhaps one final time this year, Sunday is now your opportunity. We have a great ticket special going on since it is Father's Day. Buy 3, get 1 free for Dad. So head to charlottecheckers.com to get that. It's going to be a great atmosphere tomorrow. And for those of you who can't make it, we're all over the place in terms of the broadcast, including right here on WCNC and 36.2, as well as the Charlotte Checkers app. It'll also be on Flow Hockey. It'll be streaming on social media through Flow Hockey, as well as several other outlets, WAME Radio, ESPN 730, The Game. We're all over the place. This is the Calder Cup Finals. Everybody wants to tune in, and it's going to be a great time.
By the way, we are super excited here at WCNC that it will be on 36.2 with TJ calling the games. We're looking forward to hearing you and all of your expertise. Your resume alone stands on its own. So it's great to have you here inside the Impact Studio getting all your thoughts ahead of the Calder Cup Finals. I know Nick Carboni will be reaching out again over the next couple of days and weeks. We're already planning to see where this goes. And like I said earlier, it's so cool to have this excitement lingering into the summer, right? Football's not here yet. It's close, but it's nice to have this and to have the Charlotte Checkers doing so well this year. And I'm sure you love it as well, right?
Yeah, it's awesome you drive down the road and to see Go Checkers on some letterboard sign or something like that. And like you said, it kind of takes the sports a little bit deeper and get us a little bit closer to football. The Panthers are looking like they're going to be a refreshed and renewed team going into the season. We don't know what that holds, but I think about if the Checkers would have gotten knocked out of the playoffs and let's say or didn't make the playoffs at all, the season would have been over in April. And here we are. We're just extending the sports life here in Charlotte a couple extra months to get us, into football season. And not to take away anything of what the Charlotte Knights are doing. They do a great job down there as well. But this is kind of just a little bit more, in my opinion, exciting than just June baseball.
Right.
We'll get more excited for them as we get closer to September and October, depending on how their season goes. But this just kind of gets us a little bit deeper. It's going to be a short off season for us, that's for sure. So we're excited for that. We just hope that we can bring this cup home.
Man, super excited about being a part of it, and we agree. Let's bring it home, Checkers. So good luck to you, TJ. Appreciate you stopping by. I know you got a ton of other things to do, so we're sending you all the energy and all the caffeine in the world, my friend. We'll wait for your call tomorrow. Cannot wait to hear it. We appreciate your time tonight, man.
Hey, Colin, thank you so much. I got my coffee. I'm ready to go. I'm going to be up pretty late tonight, but it's all worth it.
Well, thank you, buddy. We'll see you tomorrow, and hopefully, as he said, a great deal for Dad. Go out and see the Checkers on Sunday. Where else would you want to be but with Dad watching some hockey? You might even see a dust up here or there on the ice as well. We'll see. We do want to get to a press conference that we had a little bit earlier. Jet Zero bringing a huge investment to North Carolina. We believe more than 14,000 jobs. This is going to be a really cool investment into our economy here in North Carolina, and goes along with some of the growth that we've seen in our economy. So we'll learn more about it right now.
I would like at this time if our board could stand along with Kevin and Alex Rosser, who are our top executive. But if a board could stand, they're probably in the back already standing. But thank you for their tireless efforts. What is interesting to note, we cannot take full credit or even partial credit for what's happening today. 30, 40 years ago, the prior boards and the community leaders came together and they decided to think differently about this airport. Yes, we provide great passenger service and comfort. Our phrase is fly easy, PTI. But what's more important, that vision and foresight of prior boards and community leaders sat and said, we're going to be a little different. We're going to provide an economic engine other than just passenger service of just planes landing and taking off. And fast forward that, shovel-ready land, and plenty of it, here we are, a 4,000-acre growing campus with the titans of aviation industry on our property, providing one of the top jobs for the Triad and $10 billion of economic impact. But that's not why we're here today. Today we're here to witness an epic movement, the greatest of giant steps toward our vision. And you'll soon hear about that. All of that could not take place without the leadership of this state with a collaborative effort toward this Herculean task to get it over the finish line. Governor Josh Stein, our great governor, Speaker of the House, Destin, could not be here today, but our very own Donnie Lambeth here is representing his behalf. But last but not least, our champion, our partner, there you are. He has been a strategic partner, an ally for many, many years, and a neighbor. And we thank Senator President Pro Tem, Mr. Berger, Senator Berger. And with that, please welcome our Secretary of Commerce, Lee Lilly.
Well, thank you, Chairman Bennett, for that warm introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I am so thrilled to be here with all of you for what is sure to take North Carolina, the Triad, Guilford County, and the city of Greensboro to new heights. Today is yet another celebration of North Carolina's momentum with new jobs and new investments for the state and the people that live in and around this community. We're also celebrating the strength of our partnerships that helped the Triad region announce more than 2,000 new jobs and investments exceeding $1.1 billion just last year. This collaboration is responsible for several notable announcements and expansions in this region over the last several years, including Toyota, UPS, Boom Supersonic right here, Ross, Pro Kidney, and what will be, we all expect to be, many more to come. Our reputation for collaboration attracts the attention of companies and innovators around the world and gains North Carolina recognition as the best state to do business in all the country. The power of this working partnership deserves to be celebrated because the company that we are welcoming to North Carolina today could have gone anywhere in the world, but they chose North Carolina, they chose Guilford County, they chose Greensboro, they chose all of you. And It's each of you that makes North Carolina the best place for companies to land and to take off. And it's our shared commitment to preparing the people who live, work, and are educated here today for the incredible jobs of tomorrow. That's what CEOs tell us they're looking for, and that's what North Carolina offers. I could go on and on about what makes North Carolina so special, but I think it's time for this announcement. You've all waited long enough. So it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, a person committed to creating economic opportunities for every single North Carolinian, investing in our public schools, developing our world-class workforce, and keeping people safe. And I have to tell you, folks, because I was in on all these meetings, a world-class closer when the time comes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 76th governor of the great state of North Carolina, Josh Stein.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Secretary Lilly, for that introduction. As we gather here, I do want to note that we are thinking about the hundreds of families across the globe whose lives will never be the same after the loss in India. So let us not forget them. But it is wonderful to join you all. It's wonderful to see Senator Berger, Representative Lambeth, and I see Leader Reeves and Leader Batch here from the legislature. I also see a number of other legislators from Guilford and Forsyth delegations, but also legislators from other parts of the state who are also very excited about today's news. This is news that will benefit not only the Triad, but all of North Carolina. News that may also be the worst kept secret in North Carolina history. Today, I am proud to announce that Jet Zero will establish its flagship manufacturing operations right here at Piedmont Triad International Airport. The largest job commitment in North Carolina history. Jet Zero will create more than 14,500 high-wage aerospace manufacturing jobs. It will invest more than $4.7 billion. Over the life of the project, it is estimated to lift our state's economy by $250 billion. So let me just repeat those numbers for the people in the back. 14,500 high-wage jobs, nearly $5 billion in investment in the ground, and $250 billion in economic impact. These jobs will provide thousands of opportunities for engineers, advanced manufacturing specialists, technicians to dedicate their talents to the growing aviation industry here in North Carolina. These are great jobs with an average salary of $90,000, enabling more North Carolinians to build their careers and support their families here in our state. Jet Zero is on the cutting edge of aviation technology, and it's redefining the future of air travel. Founded in 2020, Jet Zero is developing a new blended body-wing jet that will reduce fuel emissions by up to 50% and create lower emissions, making a major step toward a zero carbon emission air travel future. Jet Zero is partnered with the Air Force, NASA, and the FAA to pursue its plan to have these planes in operation by 2030. Alaska Airlines, United, and the Air Force have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into this company, signaling their confidence in the project's success. In March, Delta announced that JetZero will be partnering with them through Delta's Sustainable Skies Lab. North Carolina is the perfect location. North Carolina was first in flight. We are also the future of flight. North Carolina has become synonymous with aviation and with aerospace innovation. Our aviation industry contributes $88 billion to the state's economy each year, home to more than 400 aerospace companies. We are still gaining speed and altitude. JetZero's decision to locate its manufacturing facility here at PTI and a driver of innovation in our state. This decision further solidifies North Carolina's place in aviation and aerospace leadership. We've been putting in the work to make sure that we're ready for the jobs of today and tomorrow. North Carolina is home to a world-class workforce and a robust community college system that prepares our students for high-demand industries, including here at Guilford Tech, which offers an aerospace manufacturing curriculum. The new project in the aerospace hub we're creating here will bring even more job opportunities to the people of the Triad and beyond. Here in North Carolina, we're also proud of our agreeable quality of life, affordable cost of living, and our commitment to clean energy. And I'm grateful that JetZero shares this commitment. JetZero is another North Carolina company with a goal of net zero carbon emissions for aviation by 2050. Those are just some of the ingredients that continue to make North Carolina the top state for business in this country. And we are not going to let up. And I want to underscore that this is a team commitment. It's one that is widely shared across the state. An announcement of this magnitude does not just happen, I assure you that. It is the project of a strong collaboration by many actors, company executives, state and local elected authorities, and economic development professionals. I'd like to thank Secretary Lee Lilly and his team at the Department of Commerce, Chris Chung and his team at the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina for all of their work on this project. Senator Berger, Senator Batch, Representative Lambeth, Representative Reeves, all of the legislators, I want to say a sincere thank you. This project simply would not have happened without the strong bipartisan and bicameral support in the North Carolina General Assembly for the economic growth of this state. There were many other necessary partners. So I want to extend my gratitude, and it's going to be a list because it took a big team to make this happen. The North Carolina Community College System, including Guilford Tech and Forsyth Tech Community Colleges. The University of North Carolina System, especially NCA&T University, North Carolina State University, the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. The North Carolina Department of Transportation, the Golden Leaf Foundation, our utility partners at Duke and Piedmont Natural Gas, the Piedmont Triad Partnership, Guilford County, including the Guilford County Economic Development Alliance, Guilford Works, the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce, the City of Greensboro, the City of High Point, and the High Point Economic Development Corporation, Forsyth County, the Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., and the City of Winston-Salem. And of course, our host today, the Piedmont Triad Airport Authority under the leadership of Kevin Baker. They were absolutely instrumental in making this deal come together. But of course, the ones to whom we owe the greatest thanks are our new partners. The most important contributor to today's fantastic news, JetZero. We welcome you to North Carolina. Thank you for choosing us. We think you will be happy with the selection that you made. So I want to congratulate everyone who played a role, big or small, in making this happen, and I think it's about 3/4 of the audience here. Thank you all for what you did to make today happen. I now want to bring forward co-founder and CEO of Jet Zero, Tom O'Leary. I'm going to give him a gift. It is a vase dreamed up by Ben Owen, a fantastic potter from Seagrove, North Carolina, 50 miles or so to the south of here. And on it are etched the words esse quam videre, which all North Carolinians know means to be rather than to seem. And what we are excited about is that Jet Zero is going to be in North Carolina. Tom, come over here. Yeah.
Our plane, which looks futuristic, and in that, I believe it's emblematic of the partnership that we're forging here. So thank you.
I love it.
Oh.
We have a press conference right now in LA. There's a pro-immigrant rights activist arrested by the FBI. So there is an ongoing rally right now to denounce this arrest from this local pro-immigrant rights activist, to try and learn more where this person might be heading to. Apparently this morning in East Los Angeles, the FBI, with support of the National Guard and the LA Sheriff's Department, arrested this person as an act of political repression, they're saying, for his pro-immigrant activism. So let's go to this right now.
With Alex Oriana. My name is Avery Raimondo, A-V-E-R-Y, last name Raimondo, R-A-I-M-O-N-D-O. And I think we need to be really clear about what's going on right now with Alex's case, right? That Alex, yes, he's an activist, and this is a clear form of political repression for the people who are in the streets fighting against ICE raids and ICE terror here in LA. And Trump is trying to send a message to everyone across the country that activism is illegal, that the people should just give in, that they should be in the houses and not in the streets, okay? So this morning at around 6:15 in the morning, I got a call from Seoul that Alex, that the FBI was at his house, so I immediately mobilized. And when I got there, all 3 streets around his house are blocked off by the National Guard, the sheriffs, and also the FBI, right? So those 3 organizations are complicit in what is going on in Alex's case. Also, as I approached, again, they're saying in the media, right, that we're criminals, that we're terrifying the people. His neighbors were terrified, not because of Alex. They said, Alex, he's a sweet guy. What is going on? It's because they thought that ICE was there, okay? So ICE is bringing terror to these communities, okay? Again, all around that morning, it was people who are going to work, right? They're just trying to live their lives, and their life is being disrupted by ICE and Donald Trump, okay? And so, to be clear here, Alex did nothing wrong. He is innocent of everything that Trump or the district attorney is trying to place on him, and it is a clear attempt to stop political activism. It is a form of political repression. The media needs to be very clear about that, because the right wing, they're trying to change the message about LA is filled with criminals. No, LA is filled with immigrants who are hardworking, who make this country amazing, right? And Alex is a person who's on the front line standing up for those people, right? So we need to drop the charges now. We need to release Alex. He needs to be safe. And we also need ICE out of LA. We need the raids to stop. We also need the National Guard out of LA. Thank you. And now I'm going to pass it to Carlos Montes, who has a history of activism and also experiencing political repression.
Thank you very much, everyone. My name is Carlos Montes, C-A-R-L-O-S-M-O-N-T-E-S. I'm a longtime member of Centro CSO. I knew Ed Roybal, one of the founders of the community service organization CSO. So it's ironic that we're standing here in front of the Ed Roybal building, who helped found CSO. And I met Alex Orellano about 10 years ago at a commissioners meeting in Hollenbach Middle School. I want to say that I'm a past president of the Boyle Heights Neighborhood Council. I'm active in the community here in Boyle Heights and East LA. I want to, of course, denounce this brutal attack on our community, on Alex. He's our brother. He's our activist. He's a longtime pro-immigrant rights activist. He's a former Marine. He was born and raised in East LA. He has done nothing wrong. These charges are ridiculous. It's a theater, federal theater. I myself, as an activist, have faced criminal conspiracy charges for the East LA walkouts that later on were dropped because they were unconstitutional. We were only exercising our freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. 10 years ago, I was raided and investigated by the FBI on another ridiculous charge of providing material support for terrorist organizations, the Palestinians, the Colombians. All ridiculous, no foundation, no charges were filed against me for that. So I'm here in solidarity with Alex, with Centro CSO and the community to demand release Alex now, drop the charges, ICE out of LA, abajo con Trump. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos. Now we'll have Christian Contreras, an attorney, who will be speaking about the case.
Good afternoon, Christian Contreras, C-H-R-I-S-T-I-A-N, Contreras, C-O-N-T-R-E-R-A-S. Today we saw the excessive, unlawful, and unjustified use of power again with this administration. A veteran, someone who served our country, someone who was a Marine, was arrested merely for handing out personal protective equipment, PPE. We are at the stage of the erosion of democracy where people who are exercising their First Amendment rights are being arrested merely for handing out masks. The next thing that you're going to see from this administration is the arrest of people for handing out water. The next thing that you're going to see from this administration is the arrest of people for merely walking on the street. And the next thing that you're going to see from this administration is the arrest of people for merely exercising their rights contrary to this administration on social media. That is where this country is going. That is where this country is clearly engaging in violation of people's rights. And what the administration is going to do, what we're going to see is the bankruptcy of this country, because the lawsuits are going to keep piling up. We're going to keep fighting in the courts, lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, and by the time that this administration is done, this country is going to be bankrupt with all the lawsuits that we're filing for the violations of rights. So is that what we want? The arrest of innocent people? The arrest of veterans? The arrest of folks who are giving out PPE, personal protective equipment? Or do we want a country that respects the rights of others, even if they disagree with their viewpoints? So we want Alejandro to be free, the charges to be dropped, and we will be suing the federal government yet again until they stop violating people's rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, I know we have some reporters who are coming from out of the state who might be curious about some of CSO's work, right? So I want to just give some history of CSO, right? We fight against police crimes, specifically the sheriffs and LAPD. We also are part of the Legalization for All network, and we fight for immigrant rights, and we also fight against the privatization of education, right? In this past week, right, or since Trump's return, we've been really focused on our immigrant rights work. But this past week, we've seen the elevated attacks by ICE and Trump against LA, right? And even within this week, okay, CSO, we helped run ICE out of LA, out of Boyle Heights. They were there in Mariachi Plaza. Then on this past Sunday, we had a march at Mariachi Plaza to get to the detention center to show our solidarity with those who are detained, and immediately the National Guard responded with tear gas, okay? Right? again, we are just protesting. We're exercising our democratic rights. We're showing solidarity with responding with political repression. Then, just yesterday, there was a case in LA where ICE, in the process of trying to apprehend somebody, hit a car with 2 children involved, right? Showing the sort of violence that they're bringing to Boyle Heights in East LA. We had a protest against that, and then the following morning, this morning, right, our own member, Alex Orellana, was arrested for his activism, okay? So the people, those are here, those in East LA and Boyle Heights are fighting back, right? We are not giving in to Trump and his repression, right? Again, we're gonna keep fighting until Alex is out and Alex's charges are dropped, all right? So I'm gonna pass it now to a Teamster, Sammy Carrera. Alex is also a Teamster and can talk about how labor is involved in this question here.
Sammy Carrera, SAMMYCARRERA, Sanitation Teamster Local 396. We are here today to say, to demand the immediate release of Alejandro Orellana, to drop all charges, and to demand ICE out of LA. Unfortunately, political repression, right? We just heard from Carlos Montes talk about when he was repressed politically, right? And unfortunately, this is going to continue to happen, right? This is the government's attempt to impede our rights to assemble, our First Amendment abilities to express ourselves, and to organize our community in defense of ICE terrorism, right? When we look at history briefly, we see that during the 60s, Watts popular uprising or rebellions, we see that they use political repression as a tool against us as well. When we look at the 1970s Chicano moratorium movement, right, and it's not lost upon us that our friend Alejandro was abducted by FBI down the street from the historic Ruben Salazar Park, right? When we look at our history, we see that this is the government's attempt to quell democracy, to organizing our communities in self-defense of what is ICE terrorism. That's what it is, right? We need to call it for what it is. These ICE agents have descended upon our city, right, even before Saturday, right, but the full onslaught began on Saturday, and it is nothing more but terrorism. So we're here today to say, drop all charges against Alejandro Orellana, to demand his release and to demand ICE out of LA.
Drop the charges now! 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 Thank you everyone who has spoken today and who is united here behind Alejandro Orellana and demanding the release of Alejandro. Once again, we demand the release of Alejandro Orellana, drop the charges, ICE out of LA, stop the raids. Next, we're actually going to hear from Ron Goches, who is helping us in this tremendous endeavor that is responding to rapidly the ICE raids that are happening around this city. So let's give it up for Ron Goches of Unión del Barrio.
So today we saw not only one of the comrades from one of our brother-sister organizations, Centro CSO, we saw people yesterday, we saw a preacher at a church be attacked. We saw people at 2 different churches in Downey be kidnapped. You saw hospitals being attacked. You saw a gym. You saw a car wash. What we're seeing is the majority of people who are being attacked are workers. They're not criminals. We're seeing people in Oxnard running through strawberry fields. We're seeing people at construction sites getting raided. And even today, even a senator from California was roughed up and put on the ground and put in handcuffs. So it shouldn't surprise us when one of the brave people from our community, one of the brave people who's willing to stand up against fascism, who's willing to stand up against these kidnappings of people from our community, is raided by the federal government. They think, the federal government thinks, and Trump thinks, that they're going to intimidate, and they're going to scare, and they're going to stop the movement. What they may have forgotten is that our people have more than 500 years of resistance. More than 500 years of resisting the colonizer. More than 500 years of facing brutal violence and genocide and attacks against our community. But not for a single year in the entire history of our people have we retreated, have we quit, have we surrendered. We have not, and we will not surrender. And so today, as Unión del Barrio, we are proud to be here today with Centro CSO and the other organizations that are standing up to defend the people of our community. What we are doing is absolutely and completely legal. We have done nothing illegal. We have informed our community of their rights. And in this case, the brother gave face shields in a zone where there's gases being sprayed everywhere. What is the crime there? He was protecting the people. He was protecting the people. So that's why it is our obligation to continue to be here in support of Centro CSO, of Alex, and of anyone else who comes under attack of this fascist and racist regime. We will continue to defend the people. We will continue to organize the people. We will not be intimidated. This will only make us stronger. And if they want peace, get the Migra, ICE, Border Patrol, get them the hell out of our community. If you want peace, get the National Guard the hell out of our community. If you want peace, get the Marines the hell out of the community. You get them out of here, and I guarantee you tomorrow we'll be back having normal lives, living dignified lives, being happy as a people. But until then, the people have every right to organize and to defend themselves, and the people will continue to do that. Thank you.
¿Alguien ocupa español? ¿Español o no? ¿Español? ¿Español? Ok, pues. I'm going to do it in español. Hola, buenas tardes, me llamo Sol Márquez. Oh, sorry. Hola, buenas tardes, me llamo Sol Márquez. Estamos aquí con nuestros miembros de Centro CSO. Estamos exigiendo que dejen libre a Alejandro Orellana. Estamos demandando que lo dejen ir y también estamos demandando abajo con los cargos que le están haciendo. Abajo con los cargos, libertad para Alejandro Orellana y migra fuera de Los Ángeles. Estamos aquí unidos y no vamos a parar de luchar hasta que nuestro compañero Alejandro Orellana esté libre. Gracias. Sorry. So let's do some chants, y'all.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir. Español? Ron? Sounds good.
Thank you, guys.
Pues estamos aquí ahora representando a Unión del Barrio. Estamos aquí juntos con los compañeros y compañeras de Centro CSO y todas las organizaciones que en este momento valientemente están luchando, organizando para defender a nuestro pueblo. Sabemos que la gran mayoría de la gente que está sido secuestrada en este momento son trabajadores. Por eso vemos que las redades están pasando en sitios de construcción, en fábricas, en los campos, etc. Por eso ahora estamos aquí para apoyar al compañero Alex, a los compañeros de Centro CSO, para decir que todas las organizaciones que estamos presentes vamos a seguir haciendo lo que estamos haciendo, informando al pueblo de sus derechos, organizando a nuestra gente para defendernos de los ataques de la migra y hacer todo lo posible para que nuestra gente esté bien. Nosotros queremos decir que todo lo que hemos hecho nosotros como miembros de la coalición es totalmente legal, totalmente legal. El compañero están diciendo que su delito es repartir máscaras en un evento donde los agentes estaban tirando gases lacrimógenos. Eso no es un crimen, eso es apoyo a la comunidad que está bajo ataque. Ahora decimos que nosotros como Unión del Barrio y todos los grupos comunitarios vamos a seguir respaldando al compañero Alex, a los compañeros de Centro CSO y a nuestro pueblo que está bajo ataque. Es nuestro deber histórico de defender a nuestro pueblo y tenemos todo el derecho y no vamos a pedir permiso ni perdón por defender a nuestra gente. Gracias.
Libertad para Alex. Libertad, libertad. Libertad para Alejandro. Libertad para Alejandro.
charges now! Drop the charges now! Drop the charges now! Drop the charges now!
All right, we'll take it back from this rally. It seems to be in L.A. After a pro-immigrant rights activist was arrested by the FBI. Certain folks saying they want more answers in this case. We will go to Jet Zero. Obviously, they had a huge announcement today, more than $1 billion in economic incentives to lure the California jet maker all the way to here in North Carolina. We'll go to this now. The governor was even on hand for this announcement earlier today.
By Ben Owen, a fantastic potter from Seagrove, North Carolina, 50 miles or so to the south of here. And on it are etched the words, esse quam videre, which all North Carolinians know means to be rather than to seem. And what we are excited about is that Jet Zero is going to be in North Carolina. Tom, come over here.
Yeah. Thank you, Governor. And to you from Jet Zero, I would like to present a model of our plane which looks futuristic, and in that, I believe it's emblematic of the partnership that we're forging here. So thank you.
I love it.
Oh. Thanks again, Governor. It's just so great to be here. You know, not only will this plane be 50% more fuel efficient, it's going to deliver a better passenger experience than you've ever had before on any other plane. So thank you for accepting this gift. Governor Stein, the warm welcome that we've received here is amazing, and I just want to thank you again for the extraordinary partnership and everything that your team has given us across North Carolina. We've received the most amazing support. So I should just pause and say, hello, North Carolina. What a day this is for Jet Zero, for Greensboro, for aviation overall. Today we are proud to announce that the first Jet Zero factory will be built right here in Greensboro, in the heart of North Carolina's aerospace corridor. Yeah. So we believe that the Z4 is the right airplane for this moment. It's an all-wing, next-generation aircraft that meets growing passenger demand. It slashes fuel use, and it sets a new standard for efficiency and passenger experience that the market is going to love. And where and how we're building this plane is every bit as important as what we're building. I mean that sincerely. North Carolina is exactly the right place for Jet Zero and the factory for this aircraft. North Carolina is the birthplace of flight. North Carolina is first in flight. And today, with this announcement, the state becomes the epicenter of the next era of flight. North Carolina's legacy in fabrics and textile innovation laid the groundwork for driving advanced material science, making it a natural home for the all-composite, which is essentially fabric, Jet Zero aircraft. So from the moment we began this nationwide search 15, 16 months ago, our exceptional partners at Savills guided us through that. They're in the audience today. Where are my Savills peeps? Right on. Thank you, Anne-Marie, leading the team. And special thanks to Luke, who, just a master of perseverance, pursued me and said, we want to be your team. So thanks to Luke, and congratulations on being a father and being here. Thank you. So much more. The response from the North Carolina state, local, community leaders has been absolutely amazing. Nothing short of phenomenal. We felt welcome every step of the way, from the governor's office to the General Assembly to the Department of Commerce, Guilford County, PTI, Greensboro Chamber. You've shown us what real partnership looks like, and that's putting the needs of your partner first. We really do appreciate that. So let me be clear, this partnership is about more than building airplanes. It's about building futures. North Carolina has one of the most impressive talent ecosystems in the country. From your K through 12 public schools to your top-ranked universities, best-in-class community colleges, we are thrilled to work with you to build the pipeline of engineers, technicians, and advanced manufacturing experts that are going to help us reshape aviation globally. It's time to bring manufacturing back to America. You know, this state has a very eager, innovative, ambitious, and capable workforce, and a leadership team at every level that's committed to making North Carolina an innovation hub. And that alignment of values, that alignment of workforce, economic development, and ambition, it's why Jet Zero is here. The Jet Zero factory is going to bring more than 14,500 high-tech jobs to the region. Jobs that are going to leverage the latest in digital manufacturing, automation, and industrial AI. Together with partners like Siemens, we're leveraging the very best digital tools and platforms to architect a manufacturing operating system. This is a huge competitive differentiating factor for Jet Zero. Also, thanks to our partners at United Airlines, one of our biggest backers, we have already shown strong commercial interest and momentum to meet the real airline demand for this aircraft. So this is more than just a factory. It's a launch pad for a new chapter of American aerospace. When the Z4 is flying passengers around the world, and this is a moment that we all dream of, people will stop and say, look, up in the sky, the Z4, and they will know that that plane is built here in the state of North Carolina. We really are so proud to become part of this community. We're incredibly grateful for the warm welcome that we've received here. Jet Zero is here to build lasting partnerships, long-term careers, and a shared legacy of innovation. And we're here to build a whole lot of airplanes. So thanks for believing in us. That's the most important element to something as ambitious as Jet Zero and the goals that we have. Thank you for believing in yourselves as well. And thank you for making North Carolina first in the future of flight.
Hey, I'm Phil Berger. I represent Rockingham and Guilford counties in the North Carolina Senate. Also am the President Pro Tem of the State Senate. I'd like to welcome our Senate members who are here, and unless there's somebody out there, I think they're all kind of close. I've got Senator Dave Craven from Randolph County. Got Amy Gailey from Alamance County. Gladys Robinson from here in Guilford County. Michael Garrett from here in Guilford County. And Sidney Batch from Wake County. If there's another Senate member here, if you'd stand up. Paul Lowe from Forsyth County. And I can't stand in front of a group of people talking about great things in the Triad and great things in the Greensboro area without recognizing somebody that really is a great person and somebody that has made a big difference in Greensboro, Guilford County, and North Carolina for a long time, and that's Jim Melvin. It's so good to see you. You know, a little over a decade ago, I was meeting with Kevin Baker and other airport officials, including the late Henry Isaacson, in my Eden office to discuss the future of PTI. They presented me with their idea
manager is here somewhere. Our
Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Petovich here once again. We're back on the stream here. We broke in earlier on WCNC on air, but here on WCNC Plus, we're tracking a flash flood warning for Mecklenburg County. So if you're in Mecklenburg County, you probably know about this. You got what's called the wireless emergency alert. Your phone went off, and that tells you that there's a flash flood warning, mostly for central Mecklenburg County. This includes all of Uptown, South Park, East Charlotte, West Charlotte, up to 485 on the north side of town, and then all the way down to Carowinds and Lake Wiley. We have had a stationary thunderstorm essentially just sitting basically over Mecklenburg County. I'm going to do a 3-hour loop. So what I'm going to do is go back 3 hours and show you how long that this storm has been just kind of camped out over most of Mecklenburg County. And because it's been sitting over the urban area, remember we're talking about Mecklenburg County where we have a lot of impervious surfaces. So a lot of concrete, a lot of roads, not a lot of green spaces. This is all running off very quickly. So the creeks and streams have been coming up very quickly in the past 12 hours, or I say 12 hours, 2 hours or so. I wanted to say 12 hours because I was going to show you 12-hour rainfall. We'll show you 24-hour rainfall, which essentially has been all the rain in the last couple of hours here. We're now about 2.2 inches of rain near South Park heading down towards the Quail Hollow area. You go to East Charlotte, almost 3 inches of rain over there. The NODA area just north of Uptown, about 2.5 inches of rain. So when you get 2-3 inches of rain in a short period of time, that is going to fall over a impervious surface like that. In Uptown, you're going to see flash flooding occur. So potentially we could see some road flooding out there. I haven't seen reports of too much of that yet, but that will likely be an issue. And these creeks and streams are going to continue to come up here over the next hour or so as we go through the evening. Now, the next area we got to watch is this thing is drifting southeast. And I say drifting because it's not moving all that much. This could be heading into southeastern Charlotte and southeastern Mecklenburg County, so areas from Matthews to Ballantyne up to Mint Hill. Those areas could see flooding, and this could eventually move into southern Cabarrus and northern Union County. I'm going to quickly look at the storm gauges, because what I've been watching are some of the reports from some of the creeks and streams and towns. I'm just real quickly going to check to see which creeks are coming up the quickest right now. I'm going to look at the Little Sugar Creek near Archdale, and it's coming up pretty quickly right now, but some of the worst flooding looks to be closer to Uptown. One of the areas that we're seeing some flooding, the Little Sugar Creek near the medical center, which is just off Kings Drive. In the last hour, it's gone from about 1.5 feet to almost 9.5 feet. So it's coming up to what we call action stage. So we're starting to see some flooding there. Briar Creek near Independence, that water level is coming up pretty quickly as well. Another area that floods pretty frequently is going to be Stewart Creek near Moorhead Street. That water has come up to 8.15 feet. And remember, earlier today it was just over a foot. Irwin Creek is another spot that floods in this kind of scenario. It's coming up pretty quickly. My next stop is going to be Little Sugar Creek below 36th Street. It's coming up pretty quickly as well. So we're seeing a lot of these creeks coming up quickly. I guess the good news is that we had some room in these creeks earlier today. So we're not seeing that flooding occurring right now, but it could be imminent at any moment. And just to remember, a flash flood warning means that we are seeing either flooding occurring or it's imminently going to happen within the flood warning area. And this is up until 11:30 p.m. tonight for Mecklenburg County. So let me widen this out just a hair and we'll kind of show you the overall view. There are more storms out there, but they're really not causing as much an issue as this one over Mecklenburg County. Let's go into the areas getting hit hardest right now. I'm going to zoom into areas in East Charlotte. So from Idlewild up towards the plaza, then you head up towards the university area, and then Derrida, Croft, down towards Noda. So the north side of town in particular, because that storm actually started north of Charlotte and has just kind of been sitting there. It's been drifting south through the evening. Most of Uptown is still seeing heavy rain and all kinds of delays at the airport. I know this is a pretty good thunderstorm encompassing all of Mecklenburg County, so this is likely causing numerous delays over at the airport. I'm going to quickly look at the airport departures and see what it looks like there. I know earlier they were kind of flying around this storm, trying to get into Charlotte, but right now with it sitting over the airport, I doubt we have any aircraft coming in at all. In fact, nobody's coming in from the east or the south. There are some planes trying to sneak in from the north, coming right down the Catawba River from Mountain Island Lake. So it appears to me that probably what we're going to see is some of these planes that are coming in from the north side. So they're basically so I'll draw that on the map. There are some flights trying to come in from this direction. They're coming in to the airport like this, but they can't come in from the south. So certainly seeing some airplanes landing. I don't think any are taking off right now, which means if you have any friends traveling at the airport, it's going to cause some big issues. Travel concerns, obviously, any of the interstates, that left lane near the median or the right lane near the pull-off area, sometimes those can have standing water if the storm drains get clogged up. That would be something I would be on the lookout for. I'm going to quickly check some of the roads here just to see if I see anything that looks like it's got any travel issues right now. Independence looks like it's pretty slow. There's nothing that looks like it's completely shut down. 85 on the north side of town is definitely running slow near 77. The worst looks like travel right now is on 485 between the premier outlets over there towards Top Golf and then back towards 77. So the southwest side of town, that seems to be the worst traveling right now on 485. And that would be the area that is basically where we're seeing the storms. I'll zoom in on that area. This part of 485 right here, probably due to just visibility issues. Now remember, when it's raining, wipers on, lights on. That is one of the biggest things you should remember. Do not turn your hazards on. You should not be driving with your hazards on. That actually causes confusion in the rain because people think your car is stopped, stalling, or pulling over. If you want to pull over and put your hazards on, that's when you do it, but don't drive with your hazards on. Better just to pull off, but do have your headlights on, all your lights, brake lights, everything. Turn everything on. That's the reason we don't want your hazards on, because sometimes it disables your turn signals and your brake lights in certain vehicles. So Just be aware of that if you're traveling out there. So again, flash flood warning to 11:30 p.m. This is probably going to stay in effect for that long, especially as the runoff continues across the area. Let's take a look at some of those totals. So one of the areas that looks like it's really getting clobbered, in fact, it just updated, is this area just south of where we are at the station. In fact, it's been pouring here at the station. We could hear it, but I'm going to show you quickly the rainfall estimates. 3.7 inches of rain in and around 77. So this is just south of the Billy Graham Parkway and Woodlawn Road area. So this is not too far from Tyvola Road exit there as you're traveling on 77, just north of the Arrowwood Road exit. That's a lot of rain. So that's all going into the Sugar Creek. So there's likely going to be some pretty big flooding there. In fact, let me look at the Sugar Creek because I'm kind of interested what it's doing in this area. That water flows down there. We just had Irwin Creek go to action stage, so it's up at 11.7 feet. Boy, that came up quick in the last, I'm going to check how long that was because that is a quick rise. Actually,
I got some creek cams if you want.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of those because I'm kind of curious to see where some of those are right now. Because
Briar Creek.
Yeah, so that one is usually one that we keep an eye on as well. The Briar Creek there is definitely high. That's near Providence Road, I think.
Yeah, that's right by Tipsy Burrow.
Yep.
And Luby's.
Yeah, that one's coming up pretty quick. Yeah. Sugar Creek has got to be coming up pretty fast.
Here's Little Sugar Creek. Let's see a little pond in here.
Yeah.
Here's McMullen Creek. That looks pretty nasty.
So yeah, that one floods pretty easily, and the fact that it's flooded. Now the road usually gets flooded, but that's pretty far over there into some of the yards. So that's McMullen Creek, which above, I believe that's the one near Lindcrest Drive. Or no, Sharon View might be. I'm going to check the water levels there. Yeah, pretty much all of these have come up very, very quickly across the area. The only one that's in action stage, none of them are in flood stage yet. Because remember, some of these greenways, obviously the paths get flooded. We see the bike lanes, and people don't want to go down in the greenway when it's, but they're supposed to flood. That's the reason the greenways are built. They're supposed to flood. That's where we want the water to go. As long as people stay off the greenway, we're going to be safe. It's when they get above the greenway we start to worry about. Yeah, so Little Sugar Creek at Seneca Place is up at 8.9 feet. It's coming up quick. That's actually not too far off a record in that area. Little Sugar Creek at Arrowwood, that's another one that floods pretty easily. It's at 8 feet, so we're seeing some pretty rapid rise. Now remember, all this water has to flow downstream, so this is all going to head down towards Pineville and McAlpine Creek area. So that's why there's sometimes a delay in this flooding. So looking at some of the creek cams over there, the water's coming up quick, and that's often the case in a place like Charlotte where we have this rapid runoff. Yeah, Little Sugar Creek at the medical center, it has actually come up to 11.77 feet. So that is up there. So that's the one that's right off Kings Drive. Don't we have a camera there, Jeb? I think there used to be one there.
Little Sugar Creek at Kings Drive.
Yeah, at the medical center. Let's see if that one, because that is the highest level I have on the creeks right now. So that's just outside of Uptown, like in the Dilworth area. 11.77. Just put that in perspective. The record water level at that gauge is 14.8 feet. So yeah, that water is coming up quick there. So something to keep in mind, stay away from the greenways and the park areas right now. Freedom Park, the greenway there, that water is going to come up quick. That's all flowing downstream. So yeah, Little Sugar Creek, just a little while ago, I'm actually going to shorten this up. I'm kind of curious how fast this came up because it was below 1.5 feet earlier today. So let me shorten this up, see how fast that came up. Trying to look at the one day zoom here. Oh no, I lost my cursor. Give it a second. We'll pull it back up. So Little Sugar Creek at Medical Center Drive is definitely coming up very, very quickly in this. All right, we'll try this. We're going to try to bring my laptop up here in a second. So again, thanks for tuning in. What we're watching right now is the flash flood warning, which is currently in effect.
I've got your laptop.
Okay, so we're going to bring this up. So I zoomed in on this area, and off to the side, to the right there, you can see, it's behind my head. Thank you, Jeb. You could see the level came up to 11.77 feet. So let me see if I'm going to refresh this real quick. Of course, it's not going to work. Let's go back to the radar quickly. I'll see if I can't refresh this and get it to work for you. But that's the area I'm focused on right there. That's where we saw the most rainfall here. Just a second ago, we saw the water levels jump quite a bit in many areas, north side of town. So, all right, let's try this laptop again. We'll try to zoom in Little Sugar Creek. There we go. Hopefully it's loading. So this area just south of Uptown, 11.77 feet is where the water levels are currently. And you can see off to the side there. So we'll zoom in on some of these creeks here. Going down the Little Sugar Creek, we'll go down to the Little Sugar Creek here. This is heading south of there. This is at Hillside Avenue, 8.75. Going down to Seneca Place, which is a Little Sugar Creek as well, 8.91. Now the record there is 9.9 feet, so we're getting close to about a foot from the record levels there. And then we go down to Sugar Creek at Arrowwood Road. That water level is 8.80 feet. Little Sugar Creek at Arrowwood, that's just near the Ruby Tuesdays down there. That floods quite a bit. That's actually not too high, but the water is all flowing down in that general direction. So eventually some of these water levels will get higher and higher. So for folks that are just kind of tuning in, what we're watching is this flash flood warning. I'll go back to the radar here real quickly. Jeb, could we punch up weather one? There we go. There's a look at the storm right now, pretty much sitting over Mecklenburg County. The problem with these storms, and this was my concern earlier today, was that these weren't really severe, but because of how muggy it was, the air you can wear, that really tropical nature, when these things slowed down, they were going to be able to put down a lot of water in short order. So what you're seeing right now is just heavy rain basically sitting right over Mecklenburg County, and the totals continue to just get really impressive here. So we'll kind of save that image there and go into the rainfall amount. So this is the estimated rainfall over Charlotte. I'm going to zoom in on this area again. See this area that's kind of shaded in Old Pineville area, north of Hebron there. We'll zoom in on this area. So Little Sugar Creek's not too far from here. So this area right in here, we're basically looking at almost 4 inches of rain has fallen since earlier this evening. That's 3.8 inches of rain. And if you know this area, South Boulevard, Old Pineville, 77, this is all urban area, urban settings. So there is nowhere for this water to go. It is running off into these creeks and streams really quickly, and that's why you're likely going to see flash flooding continue here for a while. We'll widen this back out and kind of show you. I'm going to take the radar off for a second, because one of the nice things about our mapping is we can kind of see. I'm going to pause the loop because we don't need to see the loop going on. We'll turn the lightning off. It's lightning like crazy too, so just heads up, stay indoors, stay off the corded devices out there. We'll go into the area that's seeing the flooding. I'm going to turn off the radar. If it turn, there we go. Okay, my mouse is super sensitive. So the nice thing about this, you see the blue lines, those are all the creeks. Okay, so we can actually plot the creeks on here, and you can see how all these flow south in Mecklenburg County. So one of the beautiful things about Charlotte is we do have a lot of creeks. It's a very flash flood prone city because of that. We have some topography already, but it's also an urban setting. So you see all these blue lines. These are actually creeks. I'm going to grab my cursor so I can point them out. These blue lines, these are all creeks. So this is the Little Sugar Creek Basin, which all flows south. So this comes right down Park Road. The Greenway runs right along here and goes all the way down to Pineville, but all these creeks, Irwin Creek, Stewart Creek, Big Sugar, Little Sugar, all flow south. So these areas south towards 45, Pineville area, they will start to see water come up pretty quickly as we go into the evening. So if you're downstream of these areas, just remember that water could come up fairly quickly as well, and we could see additional flooding downstream even into later tonight. Now the flood warning goes to 11:30. We could see it extended or expanded, especially since this storm is not moving. It's just sitting over the exact same area it has since about, I'd say this really cranked up around 7 o'clock or so. So it's been a good solid 2 hours of this storm sitting right over us. I'm actually going to look at one other thing. I want to look at some of the rainfall totals we had in Charlotte so far, because our FINS gauges, which are from Stormwater Services, actually give some pretty good data here. So I'm just going to go in and look at some of the totals here. Wow, some of the totals. So Myers Park area, and this is actual gauge data. This is Freedom Park, 2.59 inches of rain in Freedom Park. Heading over towards Collinswood Elementary School, 2.53. But the biggest total, and this is not radar estimate, this is actually gauge data from Winterfield Elementary School over near Eastland Mall, the old Eastland Mall area, 3.29 inches of rain. That is a lot of water. Then down towards Beverly Woods, 2.56. This is a Park South Drive fire station. This is if you're over there, not too far from South Park, that's pretty close to that area. You should take the little shortcut off Park Road. But look at this, man. The USGS office, which is near Madison Park, 3.77 inches. And again, a lot of this is falling. So that was that area we were highlighting. If you remember on our radar map, we were actually highlighting this area in that dark blue. So between where we are here at the station over towards Myers Park High School, down towards the fire station off of Park Drive South, near South Park Mall, and then the USGS office, which is near Tyvola, just on the other side, not too far from the Costco there, as you head over towards the light rail station there, 3.77 inches. So that's a lot of rainfall in those areas, and this is a pretty densely populated area where we have a lot of runoff. In Uptown, looking at their totals, this is right near Uptown, 1.91. So it's basically around Charlotte, Uptown area to Charlotte South, that Dilworth, Myers Park, South Park, Madison Park area, and then down South Boulevard towards Beverly Woods area. And again, that all flows into the Little Sugar Creek Greenway. Ride my bike quite a bit on that greenway. It's just some gorgeous areas there, but it floods, especially as you get closer to 485, where it kind of flattens out a little bit down there, and that area is definitely going to be underwater. And then that goes down to Pineville, all the way down towards Carolina Place Mall eventually. So all that water's flowing south. So neighborhoods like in that area, like Park Crossing and the Beverly Woods neighborhoods, which all butt up against the Greenway there, you're likely to have water on the backside of those neighborhoods towards the Greenway. So just be careful out there. I probably, school's out. Don't let the kids go play down near the Greenway tomorrow. There's going to be all kinds of debris and stuff that gets washed into there because everything goes in the storm drains, ends up in our creeks around here. And that's why we want you to keep those things clean. So just be careful tomorrow when the kids are out there playing if they're heading towards there. It's also going to be a lot of snakes and fire ants and all that kind of stuff too that you're not going to want to mess with as we go into tomorrow. Let me go back to the gauges. I'm kind of curious. I'm going to refresh this real quick. So this is a look at the flood mapping for Mecklenburg County, and you see the flood warning is all shaded in there on the map. So I'll bring up the medical center because that one has been the biggest one. Still 11.77. I'm kind of curious where these other totals have gone up. Little Sugar Creek, Hillside Drive, Selwyn Park area. This would be close to where we saw that 3.77. 8.9 feet. So these haven't really updated. Sometimes they're a little delayed. 8.88 Little Sugar Creek, Archdale Drive area. So this is not too far. These are the only gauges we have in that area. There used to be a gauge at Park Road Park, but I don't think it's active anymore. McMullen Creek at Sharon View, that's an area that floods quite a bit. That's up at 7 feet. So yeah, the water's come up pretty quickly. And you can see from the gauge there on the right how low the water was this morning. Some of these areas were barely a trickle, and now they're raging torrents right now as we have this flood warning, which is in effect till 11:30 tonight. So this will be the gauge to watch near Uptown. The reason this is such an important gauge because that's kind of the headwaters for the Little Sugar Creek. That's all the water from Uptown that flows into there, especially everything on the southeast side of the Uptown, the 277 perimeter, all goes into this creek, and this creek flows all the way down towards Freedom Park, and then eventually flows all the way down to Park Road Park, and then goes all the way down to Pineville eventually through the Little Sugar Creek. So some serious flooding going on there. Look at the fins data again. Boy, that USGS gauge is up to 4 inches now. That's incredible. That's a lot of rain. That's a month's worth of rain in about 2 hours. Pretty incredible to see that much rainfall, and that's the USGS office just off of Tyvola here on the south side. Kind of give you an idea where that is. There's Tyvola right there. So that is, not too far from there. Costco is right there off to the left. If you cross over, This is in that little area just between Costco and the light rail line off of Tyvola. So 4.0 inch, man, that's a lot of rain, just north of Archdale area. So that's all flowing south. That's one of the higher totals. We've got several 3-inch amounts already. Eastland Mall area, the old Eastland Mall area, not too far from there, 3.38 off Central Avenue and Albemarle Road. And then the other one is the 3.3, that's at Alexander Middle School. So 3.3 at Alexander Middle School, which is right there by Myers Park. Just that's not too far here from both of those locations are close to the station. Based on what I was hearing on a roof here, I'm not surprised that much rain was falling because that's just down the road from where we are off the Billy Graham Parkway. In fact, the closest gauge to us is just over on the other side of 77 is at 2.79, but you go just south of here and we had 4 inches of rain. That's pretty incredible. They're updating in real time there. Go back to the gauges. Let's see if they're, I'm going to refresh this, see how quick they're coming up. I haven't checked with the desk yet, Jeb, though. Was there any been water rescues or anything?
So I literally just.
I'm kind of curious because there had to be some street flooding going on.
Yeah, we're hearing an unconfirmed. I want to say this again.
Yeah.
Unconfirmed report that there has been firefighters have received a report of a person trapped on South Boulevard.
Yeah, so that's right in that area.
Right,
so
where you're seeing all the tons of flooding over there.
That would be exact. So that area is exactly, where we're seeing the heaviest rain. That little pocket. And remember, let's go back to Weather 1 for a second, and I can show you that's the area that we had the heaviest rain. So we're still looking, that's the radar. So it's still raining, Jeff. That's the thing about it. It's still raining up there. But if we look at the rainfall totals, you see this area that's kind of pinkish. I don't even know if that's pink. It looks like orange.
Yeah, like an orange,
brown.
pinkish.
That's a weird color, but it pops out.
You don't usually get that color.
Yeah, because that's the area, and Jeb was just talking about that South Boulevard area. That's where we've seen 3 to 4 inches of rain. So that's not surprising. So South Boulevard runs right through here. It's running right between, Park Road. Park Road is here. South Boulevard is. Park Road is here. South Boulevard is right here. So, yeah, that's right where that total is. So that all lines up, and I'm not surprised that we're seeing those reports come in. The concern is it's still raining in that area. It's still coming down. Now it is drifting south. I will say there's a little bit of a drift to the south. It's not much. I'll widen this out a little bit because it is a little hard to see. And again, what you're looking at is a 1-hour loop. So this is 1 hour of data that comes in about every minute. So it looks like it's jumping a little bit. We might have took a little hit. We might have had rain fade here actually because some of our data might have had some issues coming in. But yeah, it looks like some back building going on, which is not also, what I'm talking about back building is we're seeing some showers develop back into northern York County and parts of Gaston County. So flooding is going to be our number one concern here through the evening hours. And I would not be surprised if we see some additional reports of some stranded motorists. Now seeing another creek that has come up to action stage. What creek is this? This is going to be the Edwards Branch at Sheffield Drive. It's up to 7.69, so it's in minor state. That's the east side of town, so that's near that Eastland Mall location where we had a total that was jumping off the map to us that was close to 3.38 inches. So that's not surprising. So we're starting to see the creeks. This is the way these things kind of work when it rains. You start to see the runoff, and then you start to see the creeks come up a little bit delayed because it takes time for the water to go from the roads to the gutters down into the storm drains, and then it goes into the creeks. And these creeks start to come up. So as the runoff goes down in, that's when you see the water levels come up. And so I'm not surprised the water levels are starting to jump up here a little bit in the last hour or so. And it is isolated. That I will say this, if you're in North Charlotte, yeah, it's raining in many locations. But you're not seeing, like Huntersville, Cornelius, Davids, it's pouring up there, but we're not seeing quite the flooding we are over Charlotte. And even in southeast Charlotte, like going towards Matthews, Mint Hill, even down towards Ballantyne, not as much rain there. So you're not seeing, but remember that water's all got to flow downstream, so eventually it's going to be heading over in those directions. So, yeah, right now we're looking at that flood warning being up till basically 11:30 tonight. So I would not be surprised if that is extended, especially if we start to see this storm not move out at all. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that extend. But if the shower should come to an end, then the runoff should start to subside a little bit. I just want to see this thing move because I don't want to see it, especially south side of town, looking over towards Steel Creek, Arrowwood Road area. That area in particular is a spot that we're going to see some heavy rain continue for like at least another 20-30 minutes. The highest total so far, 4 inches near Tyvola Avenue. Right there near Costco, that's where we see the heaviest rain. So that is the area we're seeing some heavy rain. And so South Boulevard is not too far from there. I'm curious if that rescue was just somewhere on South Boulevard, south of Tyvola.
Just as you said that, literally just as you said that, we're seeing another confirmed report of a person who's been hurt on Tyvola in Old Pineville, which is literally right around that area.
Right in that same area. So, yeah, so that's, there's the car wash there. There's an Aldi right there. There's a light rail stop. So, yeah, that's the highest total we have in Charlotte right now, right there. It's been a while since I've seen 4 inches of rain fall that quickly in Charlotte. You've seen some 4-inch totals in a day, especially with some tropical systems, but over the urban center. And just to give you an idea, Uptown, 2.09 over Uptown. That's over Uptown. So that should give you an idea. That's falling in Uptown where there's not a lot of green space. That's all buildings and concrete streets. That is just all running off. That's why the Little Sugar Creek near the medical center is probably as high as it is, because that's the main drainage basin for that area, and that's still coming up. I'm looking at the latest number on that. Now it's up to 12.23 feet. So that's huge. The record, by the way, at the medical center is 14.8 feet. And that was not set too long ago. That was with a November tropical system, 2020, maybe 20 or 21. We had a Gulf Coast storm that came up, the Duquesne storm, and it was one of the Greek alphabets. It might have been Zeta, I think, that came up here and dumped a ton of rain and caused record flooding on Little Sugar Creek. Little Sugar Creek down towards Hillside Avenue, it's about to go into minor flood stage. It's 11.34. A little bit further south there, Seneca Place, it now surpassed its record. It's at 10.02 feet. The old record was 9.9. So I think that's a relatively new gauge. So that record's not super old. And then Little Sugar Creek at Archdale Drive. I know exactly where that's at. That's actually a pretty turbulent area. That's just south of, basically on the other side of Park Road Park. There's actually a greenway entrance there, and it's a bend in the creek there, and that's where there's usually a lot of rapids anyways. It's at 11.89 feet right now. The record's 15 feet. Yeah, these are really coming up quick. Some of the highest that I've seen in a while. It looks like the Sugar Creek is the main one. Then McMullen Creek at Lynn Crest's place, that was the camera that Jeb had up earlier, at 8 feet, so that's over the road. And then Edwards Branch off Sheffield Drive, so I'm not surprised. I might be able to bring, let me see if I can bring the camera. I can bring them, hopefully. Maybe not. Oh, it's getting darker, so.
It's not as clear as it was.
Yeah. My creek cams aren't working very well on my side, so. Yeah. It's definitely covered. The road's still covered.
You can tell it's wet.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of water there.
There's a house I know off the side that sometimes has water, but just so you know, this road does flood quite a bit. It's probably the one camera I know it's going to flood. So when the road floods, I'm not as shocked. But when I see water going up towards those houses, that's when I know it's kind of more of a serious situation. So actually, it looks like they have it lit up pretty well over there. I wonder if they are getting water close to their house. Yeah, but yeah, these creek gauges are all come up. The Little Sugar Creek in particular showing massive rises in water. That Tyvola Road area, 4.2 inches of rain. That's a crazy amount to see that water come up that quickly. Now the good news is it does look like the storm is breaking up a little bit. Maybe it's finally starting to fall apart. Yeah, it does look like it's weakening a little bit. It's still raining in many areas, and this was kind of the concern today, was that this would be a late, and I think I've said this during the early shows tonight, that, you know, we're going to see, unlike most storms which die down at sunset, these are going to keep going into the overnight, so we could see rain linger into the overnight. I'm going to widen the view out and kind of show you there are some other showers out there, but we're not worried about the little showers. It's this convective nature, the thunderstorms that build, because they end up producing the heaviest rainfall in short order, and that's the problem when you get flash flooding. Rain is fine. When I talk to kids all the time, I tell them 1 inch of rain in a day is not a big deal. 1 inch of rain in 10 minutes is a big problem, and that's what these thunderstorms can do. They can drop a ton of rain in a short period of time, and it almost doesn't matter how good your storm drain and stormwater services are. If you get so much rain over a surface too fast, it just has nowhere to go. So the potential is that we're going to see some additional flash flooding if we see more rain. Now remember this storm's going to move out at some point here in the next 30 minutes, an hour. Tomorrow we could have more storms. If we see any rain at all over these same areas tomorrow, we likely could see a rapid increase in flash flooding again tomorrow. So that's something I'm going to keep an eye on tomorrow when we're back out here. So yeah, the Sugar Creek is definitely the one rising, also McMullen Creek, and then the Edwards Branch. We've got 3 creeks that are in minor flood stage right now. And for them, minor flood stage is pretty significant in the Greenway, because that means the Greenway is pretty much flooded. I'm kind of curious. I'm going to look at this gauge because I'm kind of curious how far back this data goes. So the record's 9.9 feet. We have surpassed that. It tells me, so the gauge I'm referring to is Little Hope Creek at Seneca Place. At 9 feet, the stage 3 homes near the river gauge will have water in their crawl space, and roads in the area will be flooded. Once it gets to 10 feet, water will be in homes near the gauge site. And so that gauge site is in Madison Park, so Selwyn Park and Park Road area. So yeah, this Mockingbird Lane area, if you're familiar with that, there is a creek cam there. I'm curious how bad that looks. Sometimes it doesn't show, but that's the creek gauge, and you can see the old record was 9.9 feet. And so I'm kind of curious. It doesn't say when the record was set. Oh, here's the record crest. So the record crest is 9.9 feet. That was set back in 2003. In June of that year. The recent crest, 8.68 feet in 2016, 7.5 feet in 2015. So this is the highest level this creek has ever been in this area. According to the gauge, is at 10.02 feet. You can see the old record was 9.9. So we have a new record on Hope Creek at Seneca Place. And so at least some homes in the area are going to have water in their crawl space according to the gauge based on past experience. And just to show you where that is.
I have a good picture of it, I think.
Yeah.
Little Hope Creek?
Yeah.
Here, let me pull this up.
That's at Mockingbird Lane, I think, is that camera.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
you can tell.
All right, so there's the gauge. That's the actual, that road, that's a road. So that should not be, so this is a picture of the road that goes over the creek. And this is over in Madison Park area. I've actually driven over there when it's flooded to see how high this water is. Yeah, I'm not surprised we're seeing water there, but that's the highest I think I've seen it. That's the street there. That's the street light that you see lighting that up. That's the reason I have. So that's a new record flood there. Flood stage is 8.5 feet, and it's at 10.02 right now. So yeah, that's one of the highest levels we've seen in that area. That is crazy. Yeah, this is just up the street from Selwyn Park area, south of Montford Drive. This area, I've driven back here. I know exactly where this is. Pfeiffer University's right there. There's a whole bunch of new apartments and condos across the street from this area, but let's look at that gauge. I'm kind of see if it's still going up or coming down. It's staying steady, so that's good. We don't want to see that go up anymore. And this is the same area, Madison Park area, that we're looking at. We're getting reports of water rescue. So far, the total that I've seen the highest near Tyvola Boulevard, which would, by the way, be draining into the same area. not too far away. So this whole area, this little focus on the map here, if you look at the top, about 3 inches of rain fell, to the right about 3.5, and to the left 4.2. So Madison Park is right in the middle. This is west of the South Park area, west of Myers Park. Park Road Shopping Center is very close to this area. Tyvola exit off of 77, the Costco there, the Montclair neighborhood down to Archdale. So this is a very populated area, a lot of homes in this area, and there might be water in some of these homes off of Mockingbird Lane there in in Madison Park, excuse me, because there's a lot of homes near that gauge and on the creek there. And this is the creek. Yeah, it's crazy to see that water got this high. We'll look at some other impacts here. So they gave you some good stats here. 2 inches of rain in 1 hour took the creek to 9.2 feet. So we've had 4 inches of rain in about 2 hours, so we've doubled that. So that should give you some perspective. That's a great thing about some of these gauges. You got some good data. You can look at past events for these areas and see how much rain caused flooding in these areas.
Here, Brad, we just got some new images out of South Park, it looks like. I'll get the exact. These are, Montfort Drive. I'll put these in here. You can see a lot of that. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's very close to that Hope Creek. Yeah, I'm not surprised we're seeing that. That's so that's a lot of flooding in that area. Hopefully no homes are impacted, but in an event like this, it's always good to go out and make sure you check those storm drains. Even in a downpour, there's going to be debris floating in that water. Go out there, take a rake, and just make sure the storm drain is clear, because you can end up getting flooding back into your house if the storm drain clogs up and starts running down the driveway. So go out there and clean it out. Just get that water. We want that water to flow into the creek, get into the greenway, and get away from the homes. So anything that could back it up, because a lot of the debris is going to get picked up. I don't know if it was trash day in their neighborhood or if they have lawn pickup day, but all that stuff sometimes gets washed away and gets clogged in the storm drains. I know in our neighborhood that happens when there's heavy rain, because everyone puts their leaves and all the pickup for City of Charlotte, the branches and hedge trimmings, they'll pile them up at the curb, and when you get a rain like this, it all washes into the storm drain and clogs it up. So might be a good idea to go check that if you're in this area, because 10 feet of water in Hope Creek, Little Hope Creek, is a lot of water, especially considering today. I'm trying to look back, that's wild to think. So I'm going to go back to this afternoon. So at 5, I'm going to go back. Let's see how far back I can go here. I'm kind of curious. So 5 o'clock today, it was at 3 feet. Okay. And it came up to 10 feet since 5 o'clock. Even at as late as 6 o'clock, it was at 3.1. It really, if I'm reading this correctly, it's 7:50. It was at 3.1 feet, and then it jumped to 3.5 feet at 8 o'clock. So in 10 minutes, it came up a half foot, okay? And then by 8:45, it was with 10 feet. That is a huge rise in water in less than an hour. Between 7:50 and 8:45, it jumped 10 feet. So that should tell you. Now, again, a lot of that's because there's runoff coming from upstream, but also because the rainfall falling in that area. So that's a great example of what a flash flood is, because that water's all going in there. Remember, it's not just the rain falling at this location, it's the rain falling in the basin. It's like a giant funnel, this basin, and it all gets caught and then gets funneled into the creek, and so the creek comes up real quickly like that. So yeah, that's Little Hope Creek at Seneca Place. Briar Creek at Colony has come up to action stage now as well. See what it's up to. It's up at 9 feet. So Briar Creek at Colony, that's same area, that's South Park area. So you guys kind of get the idea where we are. When you look at the map here on the left, I'm going to widen it out. So you see all the green gauges. That means the green dots mean they're below flood stage. Doesn't mean there's not high water and just below flood stage. When they're yellow, that means they're in action stage. When they turn orange, that's in minor flood stage. If they're red, it would be moderate, and then purple or fuchsia, or however you want to look at that, kind of purplish pink color, that's actually major flood stage. So right now we have 3 gauges in minor flood stage and 1, 2, 3, 4 in action stage. And action stage is important because that means somebody's getting impacted, even if it's a road or a house. And so we have 3 of those. Stewart Creek on the northwest side of town too is actually getting up there. Let's see what the medical center gauge is up to. 12.23 feet, but it looks like it's actually starting to come down. That's the thing about these creeks. They're very flashy, they like to say, which means they flash flood real quick, but they also go down very quickly. So because they drain so quick and they move so fast, they tend to drain, and the water levels will drop off fairly quickly. So when we refer to a creek as a flashy creek, that means it tends to react quickly to water, and it also reacts the opposite way as water goes back down. So I'm not surprised we're seeing some of those areas flooding. I'm actually going to be curious to see if I've gotten any pictures in from anybody in our area, because I know the sun set at around 8:35, so we probably lost a lot of daylight. There's probably not great visuals out there. It's also another good idea if you're out and about to don't drive into standing water, because this time of night in particular, you have no idea how deep that water is, okay? And in some of these cases, I don't know if that's a road, a creek, or the road's gone. So, yeah, you got to be very careful at some of these areas. I just got a message from someone saying they're stuck at the airport with 2-hour delays. That's not shocking.
Yeah, here, I'll cut it in. There's 506 delays right now and 32 cancellations as of 9/25.
Yeah, that's not surprising, mainly because of the lightning out there. I'm hoping to do something with the airport. We're going to do something together and talk about like why thunderstorms are such a big deal at the airport. It's one thing about flying into thunderstorms, but the other thing people don't think about, the airport is super flat. The tarmac, there's nothing out there. So when there's lightning at the airport, guess what doesn't happen? There's no refueling of planes. There's no cleaning of planes. There's no luggage carriers, because those people aren't going out on the tarmac to do that in the middle of a thunderstorm, because they're by default the tallest object, and they're connected to giant fuel tanks and an airplane. So that's a huge lightning risk. So that's another reason why when there's a storm at the airport, it pretty much shuts everything down, and it causes this huge trickle-down effect. Some of the worst weather for travel is not winter weather. It is thunderstorms in the summer at the airport. It causes more delays than winter weather. I mean, most airports would rather operate with snow and ice falling than they would a thunderstorm, because even though that slows things down, they can de-ice and get people going. When there's a thunderstorm, nothing's happening. So, and in the summer, everyone's traveling for vacations too, and that's you have a ton of people. And then once the airport has an issue here, that plane is now not going to get to its connecting flight, and it becomes a big issue. So, yeah, you feel for people like that, because this is not going to be an easy recovery tonight from these areas. So the good news, as we're looking at the radar, we're seeing the rain move out of the flood warning area. So we should see some rapid improvement here in Mecklenburg County. Now, there's new storms developing here over in Gaston County, as that storm is kind of meandering and moving over there. So from Clover to Gastonia to Lake Wylie to Kings Mountain, we're seeing some rain. And now we're seeing heavy rain up in parts of Cabarrus County, Rowan County. Got to watch Stanley County. We had a flood warning there earlier tonight for Albemarle. They've got more rain moving there. So don't be surprised if there's additional flood advisories. But again, the flash flood warning, for Mecklenburg County is up until 11:30, but I don't see that being extended, because now that the rain is slowly moving out, we actually should see some rapid improvement. But if you do have pictures or video of flooding in your area, if you can safely do so, use our WCNC app, use the Near Me feature. We'd love for you to do that, because then it kind of geotags where you're at and lets us know where that location is. And that will help actually a lot, because this will help verify warnings for the National Weather Service. It also helps Charlotte Mecklenburg Emergency Management and first responders, stormwater services, know where the worst flooding is, and so they can react. Because one of the things that stormwater services will do is they'll get out to these creeks and make sure there's debris is cleared out so that they flow quickly out there, so they can help respond and get out there. And I know I bet the Charlotte Mecklenburg fire department's been very busy tonight responding to a lot of calls. When there's water rescues and cars trapped in water, which often is the case because the roads flood pretty quickly, they're very, very busy. So probably a good idea to maybe stay off the roads here. I'm going to quickly check the roads now that you say that. The good news is the roads don't look too bad. The worst road right now looks to be Independence. I wonder if there's water on Independence. There's a place near Bojangles Coliseum where there's always. Okay. So I'm guessing that lane has got water in it because it looks like it's completely stopped. That's kind of a known flood spot over there. Yeah, it's right where Wendover goes over there before Bojangles. It floods all the time over there. So that's completely blocked off looking at the traffic maps. The other area that has some pretty slow traffic right now is still 485 on the southwest side of town. And then also Highway 160 near Steel Creek, near Westinghouse. So I'm curious if they have some water on the roads. And all it takes is one of the lanes to get water where everyone's forced to go to one lane, then that backs everything up. So that's probably happening. That's probably what happened on Independence, honestly. You get that one lane full of water and everyone's got to get over because nobody wants to drive into it, which is right. You shouldn't be driving into it. So yeah, I'm looking at the traffic basically right around the Park Expo Center to Bojangles, to Ovens, all the way to North Wendover's. Going out of town, so going towards Matthews is pretty much dead stop now. So, yeah, that's probably water on the road. So, the good news is that looks to be, for being a wet night, there's flooding. I don't see a lot of roads. 77 looks good because there's always sometimes water on 77. The other problem with 485, I bet it's slow too because they're repaving 485 down there, so they might be in one of those situations where the paved lanes are pushing water into the unpaved lanes and it's getting trapped. That happens a lot when they're in a construction zone. Sometimes the actual storm drains get clogged up. So yeah, those are the areas that are seeing the heaviest rain. But the good news is the rain is kind of tapering off. So all in all, good news that we're finally starting to see things calm down. I'm kind of glad that we're not seeing it. I'm going to check the airport real quick, so I'm going to turn that off real quick. So this is I always look at to see if the airplanes are flying into Charlotte. There's still some planes landing though. So, boy, they got tons of ads. So you can see a couple planes trying to come in from the north. So they're definitely trying to get in there. But you can see a lot of planes sitting on the tarp, which means nobody's leaving. That picture is worth 1,000 words because there should be planes all over the place. There are none to be found. And I tell you what, they're probably avoiding this area like the plague. Yeah, they're all moving around us. So, yeah, not seeing many planes coming in. There's none taking off, clearly. So that's a sign that we're probably going to be stuck at the airport. And I think because it's 9:30, some of these people are going to be stuck there overnight, unfortunately. I can tell you. So let's check the creek real quick. I'm really interested to see where these are at now. Hopefully the water's going down. That's my next thing I want to watch. Ooh, McMullen Creek is now in major flood stage. So it's a new record. We had 2 record floods tonight. McMullen Creek, that's crazy. So, yeah. That is nuts. So yeah, you saw the first time we had a red dot there. That's McMullen Creek. So that's that creek cam we showed with it running over the road. Let's see, it's coming down hopefully by now, but that jumped up to major or moderate flood stage. So that was pretty significant. That's an area that floods all the time too, so you know it was high there. So you see our red dot on the map. That's the creek we had flooding on. And now every creek, all the gauges on the Little Sugar Creek, as I expected, are all in orange because that's the water flowing downstream. That's a Little Sugar Creek at Hillside Avenue, 12.6. Seneca Place, that's the Hope Creek one. Oh my gosh, that completely shattered the record. 11.16. The old record's 9.9 feet. We're gonna have to save that image for sure. Save that one because you don't see that very often. Then the Little Sugar Creek at Archdale Drive, 13.63 feet. That's close to being in moderate flooding. So we'll have to see if that comes up.
Just a little update to our friends on Montfort Drive who sent us
Yeah.
that the flooding.
Yeah.
Apparently, the fire department came to clear the drains, and the water levels have dropped significantly since then.
That's great to see. Yeah, cleaning the drain. I mean, I've trained my son to do this. He goes out and cleans ours, and it does help tremendously. And that's when I tell people, like, you know, even if you don't live near a creek or stream, you can get flash flooding in your house if that storm drain in front of your house clogs up. That's all it takes. So clean those storm drains out in front of your house, because the whole goal is to get that water moved to these creeks. Remember, we have a great greenway system in Charlotte. Those greenways are great recreational places to ride your bike, take the kids, but they're also meant to flood. That's the whole point. Those are supposed to be floodplains that the water goes to and floods, and not into people's homes. The city and the county has done a great job buying up properties near these creeks to get houses away, and basically allow these areas to be where the water can go and not in your home. So it will be messy. The greenway will have mud all over the path, so you're trying to ride your bike, your scooters, everything else everyone takes down there. It's going to be a muddy mess, but that's what you expect. That's where you want the water to be. And trust me, there will be debris and mud all over the place tomorrow as these creeks go down. They will go down quickly. As Jeb was mentioning, as soon as those storm drains are cleared out, that water is going to clear out of there pretty quickly. So, but yeah, there's all our flooding. You can actually almost follow the Little Sugar Creek from uptown down to Pineville. You'll see that the next gauge that'll go up will be the Little Sugar Creek in Pineville, because all that water's going, that's where it's going next. You can track almost the crest, like it's almost like a surge of water coming south. Yeah, it's coming up, but not very fast. The water hasn't gotten there yet. But it's definitely made it to Archdale, which is just south of Park Road Park. So Little Sugar Creek at Hillside is north of Woodlawn. This is down to almost Fairview, and then you're down to like Park Road Park. So that's where the water's going next. McMullen Creek looks like it's still up there pretty high. 9.8. It looks like things are starting to level off now, so that's some good news. Let's go back to the radar, Jeb, real quick. I'm just curious to see how bad it's looking better. That's what you want to see. So we've gotten rid of the heavy stuff, and so it's starting to calm down. But that's your typical summer storm around here, honestly. You get a pop-up storm like that just parks over the city, doesn't take long. I mean, that thing just will put down a ton of water in a short period of time, and you'll see flash flooding almost immediately. All this happened in the span of about 2 hours. So it doesn't take long when you have this much tropical moisture like we had today. It was super hot, super humid, super sticky, and that drove a lot of the flooding that we saw in Charlotte today. And it was the flash flooding kind, because it just came up quick. It was in an urban setting. It ran off, and the creeks and streams will stand this, but when it rains 4.34 inches off of Tybola, 4.3 inches. I'm going to look at the actual, how fast that fell. Let's look at the details here. Holy moly, that was putting tabular. So let's see when the highest total was. I'm trying to go back a couple frames here. I mean, we were getting on the order of a half an inch every 5 to 10 minutes. That just blows my mind. Go back one. So around 8:20, okay, get this, at 8:20 to 8:25, 0.54 inches of rain fell. And then at 8:25, another quarter inch fell. At 8:15, half an inch. So in about a 10-minute span, we got an inch of rain. Remember I said an inch of rain in a minute's a bad thing? That was exactly it. That is crazy amount of rain. There's the every 5-minute total there on the left. The graph looks like this. It looks insane. I mean, that's one day. That is wild to see that. So I'm going to see the peak total was a half an inch in 5 minutes. Yeah, there's no there's no way you can withstand that much water in that short period of time. So widen it out, and you can see most of Charlotte ended up with an inch of rain, but you go south of 485, there's a few spots near Ballantyne. 0.04 inches of rain. I mean, Providence Road, trace. So this is really localized stuff. It really was, but it was in the wrong part of Charlotte because it was from uptown down the South Boulevard Park Road corridor, which that's where all the development in Charlotte has been. Think of South End all the way down to Pineville. So that's the corridor in Charlotte that has the most impervious surface right now. So that was pretty bad. So the good news is it looks like the flood warning is going to stay up, but they're going to put some flood advisories for these other areas. So that's the good news. No more flood warnings, just flood advisories for areas in Lancaster County, the Panhandle, because a lot of that water's flowing there, and then over into, it looks like Gaston County as well. That's where we're going to see some of that flooding. So just some minor flooding. The gauges are all hopefully coming down. I'm going to check these real quick. Gosh, Hillside, that's crazy to see how much water. The first gauge I want to see come down is looking uptown. Yeah, it's come down, thank goodness. It's down to what, 11.3, so it's come down almost a foot near the medical center, Little Sugar Creek. So the crest has happened near uptown. It's already passed, but that's all flowing down. It peaked at 12.24. Let's see, it's coming down here hopefully as well. No, it's still coming up there, so that's Little Sugar Creek at Hillside. And then this is Little Hope Creek where we saw that water's still coming up. Probably because they cleaned storm drains. It's all going into the creek because that's where the water's going. So that gauge could still be going up. 11.16, that's going to be the new record. Oh, it's coming down. Let's see. Ooh, is it coming down? Widen this out a little bit. It'll be easier to see. There we go. So that's a view of it happening. I mean, that's only since noon today. It really came up quick. And then we'll go to Sugar Creek off Arrowwood. It's coming down too, it looks like. It's almost 14 feet there. That's close to a record. That is pretty incredible. McMullen Creek at Lindcrest Place. New record there. Looks like it's coming down too, though. Let's see. No, it's still coming up. Man. Yeah, that came up quick. So that's why it's at major flood stage. But yeah, the one that's going to always stick with me is going to be this Little Hope Creek at Seneca Place. This will give you a good view of it. So there's a good view of what it looks like. I mean, that came up. So at 8 p.m., it went from 3 feet to 11 feet at 9:15. That is a flash flood. Textbook right there. I'm going to save that one for later. But yeah, that should give you an idea of how fast the water came up. So if you ever know the difference between a flood and a flash flood, a flood is a slower moving thing. It happens over hours, sometimes days on rivers. This was an example of a flash flood because it happened in short order. It didn't start raining in some of these places, until, after 8 o'clock. But the water was already coming downstream. So that's why you saw so much rain. And now that we're still raining, but it's almost done. 4.41 inches off of Tyvola. Man, that's a lot of rain. That's definitely been the highest spot in Charlotte. I'm curious what the record for that gauge is. That's a stormwater service gauge, so they probably do have a record. It probably doesn't go back that far, but it does go back through some pretty good storms. Should give us an idea of some of the totals there. I'll have to ask Stormwater Services to see how that record is, but that's going to be up there. I think Charlotte's one-day rainfall record is around 6 inches, 6.6, I believe, with the tropical system. So to see a 4-inch amount, that would put you in one of the top 10 wettest 24-hour periods. And this wasn't over 24 hours. This was in 2 hours. In some cases, it was an hour. So a tremendous amount of rainfall there in a short period of time. Let's go back to the radar, see if this thing's moving out. We might be able to... Yeah, the good news is the worst is over. So we can feel a little bit better about the rainfall totals starting to subside here. Now we just got to let the water run off. Now, just a heads up, if you're in Gaston, York County, or even Cabarrus or Stanley County, there's still some heavy rain there, but we're not seeing as much lightning and thunder, which is a good sign because that would mean the rainfall rates would be super high. So we want to see, much lower rainfall rates so that this can run off at a slower pace and not cause flash flooding. Okay, yeah, so I was correct. I just had to look up the maximum rainfall totals for Charlotte. So our one-day maximum is 6.88. That was in July of 1997. Number 2 is 5.91. That was in 1944. I don't remember that one. I was not here. Number 3 is 5.36. I was here for this one, 2008. That was Tropical Storm Faye, August 26th. I was here for this one too. This is when I was talking about that set the records on the Sugar Creek. This is number 8, 4.62. This was November 12th, 2020. That was the remnants of Tropical Storm Hurricane Zeta. It was, remember, people forget about 2020's crazy hurricane season. There, COVID was going on, but we got into the Greek alphabet that year with hurricanes. 30 storms that year, I believe. And so we had a storm that made landfall in Louisiana. And it was Zeta, I think. And it came up here as a remnant low, and it dumped in November, believe it or not, November, right? Dumped a ton of rain, and we had record flooding on the Little Sugar Creek that surpassed some of these records from 1944. So pretty wild. So top 10, to put us in the top 10 for a Charlotte rainfall would be 4.52. Now, it's not official because it's not at the airport, but just to put it in perspective, top 10, the number 10 on this list for one-day rainfall is 4.52 back in 1893. Tonight, at near Madison Park, we had 4.41. So that's one of the higher totals you're going to see in Charlotte in a single calendar day. And it, like I said, it didn't fall in a calendar day; it fell in like 2 hours. So that's a lot of water out there. So good news, Jeb. I think things calming down. You haven't seen any other crazy reports coming, have you?
I'm seeing one. I just saw. Let me pull this up right here. We're hearing reports of a tree down at Sleepy Hollow Road.
Okay.
I think we're trying to send a crew there now. We're still trying to learn more about this water rescue that we brought up a few minutes ago. But honestly, the last few minutes, kind of in correlation to your report, like it seems like things, knock on wood, have been settling down in some of those most flood-prone areas.
Yeah. So the good news is that probably people are hunkering down. I think the thing people are going to find out here is they're probably going to have some water in their crawl space and basements if you have a basement. So that's a thing you'll see now. But the road flooding is the one that usually causes the biggest response from CMPD and the fire department and medic. And so the fact that the water's been able to subside from the roadways. Now, it's still going into these creeks and streams, trust me, they're still coming up. But those usually, when you have people driving into water, they get trapped in an intersection in the water, that's usually when we have the biggest issues. So that's likely why we're seeing things subside. So some good news there.
And here we can also bring up right here really quickly, Mike just pulled this up, kind of where we're looking at on Independence right now.
Yeah.
It looks a little, not much better, but a little better than what it was.
Yeah, so that means the water's definitely subsiding there. So that's a good sign as well. And I'm looking at all the creeks, and none of them look like they're coming back up. Like I said, it looks like they're subsiding. I'm going to start in the headwaters because that's where the water's the highest. Yeah, like area near Uptown, you can see we've already crested, and now it's starting to fall. So there's kind of that ebb and flow. It's coming down. It's come down a good foot. If we look at areas south of there, yeah, everything's kind of cresting now, if you will, and moving south. But just a heads up, the greenways are going to be a mess tomorrow. If you are early morning runner, biker on these greenways, just be prepared for a lot of debris and mud. It's going to be all over the place. Pretty slick out there. There might even be high water in the morning in a few spots just because it's going to take a while.
Some more good news. We just got word literally 30 seconds ago from Charlotte Douglas. They tell us ramp operations were paused because of that severe weather, but the ramp has since reopened and operations are resuming. They want to make sure passengers check their flight, make sure everything. Obviously, there's been a lot of delays, but it does look like operations are back and running at the airport.
Yeah, so actually going to show you kind of my view of my radar here. It's actually that 4-inch total just popped up on our map. That's actually an official report. So 4 inches of rain in less than 90 minutes.
That is crazy.
So, and that's right down the street from where we are. So we're off, if you guys don't know, we're off the Billy Graham Parkway near Tryon Street. So this is just down near Tyvola and 77. That's one exit down from us near the Costco. And in that area, 4.41 inches of rain in 90 minutes, okay? Think about that for them. That's a lot of rain. Like I said, that's more than a month's of rain, worth of rainfall in an hour and a half. And it didn't fall over farmland or wooded area. It fell over parking lots and streets and buildings. And so that water just ran off completely and caused flash flooding. That's why we saw record water levels on some of these creeks and streams. But you still see a lot of rain out there. We've got rain pushing up towards Salisbury and Albemarle, but in Charlotte, we're starting to get it out of here, which is a good sign. But just a heads up, overnight, there could be additional rain coming in, and we've got this southerly flow, so all this moisture is going to be coming up from the south, and so you're going to see probably a couple more waves of rain overnight. There's actually a pretty big cluster coming up through Georgia right now that eventually could bring us some rain after midnight to 3 a.m. So definitely something, that could be problematic if it falls over the flood-prone areas that we had, because one thing about flooding, once you get the ground saturated, it doesn't take as much rain the next time. Well, you get 2 inches of rain tomorrow and have flooding just like tonight if it falls over these exact same spots, because not only do we have impervious surface, now what ground there is saturated as well. So that just makes everything run off pretty quickly. So I like the fact that that's pushing out. I'm gonna look at the dew points, because dew points are in the 70s, so we still got a really amped up atmosphere. So just think of like the higher the dew point, the more moisture there is. It's like having the atmosphere being a sponge. When the dew point's low, the sponge is dry, it can hold water. When it's saturated like this, you just push it, squeeze it a little bit, and that's what these storms do, and it squeezes out a ton of water because they're just completely saturated. So that allows for just rapid, moisture to come off and, create the flash flooding that we had tonight. So I like to see the levels come down. So 11.16 is going to be the new record for Little Hope Creek near Seneca Place, and that's in the Madison Park neighborhood. The gauge is actually on a bridge. There's actually a creek cam there. We saw the road was completely covered in water. There's a street light there as well. That is just east of where that 4.1 or 4.41 inches. Let me double check that that's still 4.41 is the total there. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much water fell in that area, and that fell in 90 minutes. Man, that is just wild. I can't believe we saw that much rain that quickly from just an afternoon thunderstorm. And that thunderstorm happens anywhere else, it probably causes flooding, but nothing like that. It could happen over a more rural area, and it would not cause as many issues. Though, trust me, if that happens anywhere, you're going to get some flash flooding. There's just not as many buildings or roads and stuff to get impacted by the flooding as there is in an urban setting like this. So that's why we're seeing that. So we'll have to watch this later tonight to see this next batch possibly coming up from the south. And that could be what we'll be tracking tonight at 11 on WCNC. It'll probably be the next wave of rain coming in closer to midnight, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. So you see we have crews out at that tree. I'm curious if that tree was actually from wet soil or wind, because there really wasn't that much wind.
Yeah, I mean, guessing by that area where it I wouldn't be surprised if it was soil.
Yeah, and that's the other side effect of this, is you get this much rain, the soil gets saturated, just the weight of the tree can come down. It doesn't even take wind. So, but we did have some wind damage reports, I will tell you that, over in Albemarle with the first storm of the day that kind of bubbled up there during the evening news. We did get some trees down, and then I had some reports in the Troutman area up in Iredell County of some trees getting blown down. So not surprised that we saw that up in that area as well, because those storms were actually looked a little bit stronger. This cell over Charlotte, I don't want to say it wasn't strong. The problem was it just wasn't moving. It was just sitting over Charlotte, and we had the sea breeze coming in from the coast. It interacted with another outflow boundary, and it just sat there. It was like the perfect setup for flash flooding. So what a wild night this ended up being. 4.43, that looks to be the total. It's still sprinkling, but we only added 2/100ths of an inch in the last 5 minutes, so that tells you how light the rain is right now. So I'm glad to see that. There's a look at the wider view of the radar. You could see the rain is kind of pushing out, and still have the flood warning, which is up for about another hour and a half. They tend to not cancel these early unless there's no flooding at all, but I could see them leaving this up to 11:30 just to let the water levels in the creeks go down, because until these go, I'm going to refresh this so we know. Yeah, so we had 4 gauges, 5 gauges now at minor flood, 1 at moderate, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that got up to action stage. And you can see the area, it's all kind of right around. So if you ever wonder how the flood warnings get issued, they'll look at these gauges, they'll look at the rainfall rates on the radar, but also look at the rainfall gauges, and that's why they highlight that area in kind of red on the map. That's actually where the flood warning is. So if you live in that area, we got it here at the station. Our phones went off. We got the wireless emergency alert. If you're outside of the area, you shouldn't have gotten that alert. You may have gotten it if you're hitting a cell phone tower that's inside that red area, but hopefully it didn't, because that reduces the overwarning, because that's the great thing about wireless emergency alerts. It can really target people there. Would it be interesting? The people at the airport were in this warning, so everybody's phone at the airport was probably going crazy, which probably sounded wild to be at the airport. But anytime there's a flash flood warning that has this kind of danger, they're going to issue. It's not a base, it's what we call life-threatening flash flood warning. Then the wireless emergency alert will be set off based on the cell phone tower location. So if you're hitting a tower that's inside the warning, your phone is going to go off. That's why there is a little overwarning for areas on the edges, because you might be hitting a tower that's inside there. You don't pay for that. That is free from the FCC and your cell phone carrier. It's built into your phone. If your phone did not go off, you need to go in and check your settings to see if you have those alerts turned on. You can adjust for weather, government, Amber Alerts. You can also set it to go off even on mute. And the reason I say that is these are only pushed out in the most dire of situations. Extreme flood warnings, destructive severe thunderstorm warnings, not regular thunderstorm warnings, extreme severe ones that produce 2-inch hail or 80-mile-an-hour winds, or tornado warnings. And the nice thing about that, in the middle of the night, that's what you want. When you're sound asleep, you want that device to go off and wake you up. And security. The great thing, too, is for everybody traveling, if you travel into an area, you don't know the area, that alert will go off as well. So that will help you if you're driving into an area where there is severe weather like we had tonight. So if you're watching our stream on WCNC Plus, thank you so much for tuning in. We had some technical difficulties earlier, but we were able to get on for the flood warning here tonight. Eventually, we'll probably bail out of here coming up shortly, but you're going to get us tonight at 11. We'll have complete coverage of this flooding going on as well. As Jeb mentioned, we have crews out there gathering information. Also, viewers have been sending us videos and pictures, and we'll have some updates coming up at 11 o'clock, which, by the way, you can stream as well on WCNC Plus. So if you're watching us on WCNC Plus, you can watch us again at 11 o'clock. That will be our live newscast. And then, of course, catch live newscasts again starting at 4 o'clock in the morning. So, and you don't even have to live in Charlotte to watch us. You can live anywhere and watch us on WCNC Plus, because it's a huge asset to be able to watch us anywhere without having to be inside our viewing area. So again, flash flood warning up for Mecklenburg County. That is up until 11:30 tonight. The rain has come to an end. Let's quickly show the radar there. Yeah, thank you for putting the corner. So you see the radar there in the corner. The worst of it is moving out. And so we will likely not see additional flooding. We're just waiting for the waters to subside. And what I've been watching is a lot of the creeks and streams just to see where we are with those. All of them seem to be cresting except for some of the southern ones. So the ones I'm referring to, Hope Creek is finally starting to come down a little bit, it looks like. Yeah, it's subsiding. That's good. That was the one that had a record flood. And now I'm looking at the one, Archdale, Little Sugar Creek. It looks, I'm trying to see if it's actually coming down. It doesn't look like. no, it's still kind of leveling off there. So the water is kind of working its way from uptown down to Pineville, if you will. And so that water will continue to head down that way. Let me zoom in on the map here. I'll loop this a couple times just so you guys can see the radar kind of thinning out. It's still raining, trust me, but it's not the heavy stuff. And one of the things we can turn off, we're getting a lot of ground clutter tonight. We get that on the radar quite a bit when we have an inversion. We've got rain-cooled air at the surface now, and we've got really hot, humid air above it. So you're going to see, there we go, turn off some of the ground clutter. So kind of shows you there's still rain out there, but it's not nearly as heavy. So that's the flash flood warning up until 11:30. There are a couple flood advisories I will pass along to you as well. I'm going to recap those because we have flood advisories for Lancaster County till 12:15 in the morning and York County until 12:15. And that's basically for the same storm because that's the water flowing into northern York County and northern Lancaster County, the very top of the panhandle, because all the water from Charlotte is flowing down that way. So those are flood advisories, not flood warnings, just to give you a heads up. Difference between an advisory and a warning. And a warning is a little bit elevated. Advisory is just below that to kind of tell you, hey, be advised. We've got some high water in those areas as it travels to the south. So good news, things kind of winding down, everybody out there. We get a little breathe a sigh of relief. But again, thanks for tuning in to WCNC Plus tonight, guys. We appreciate you checking in. Make sure you tune in tonight at 11 on WCNC. We'll have the latest coverage on the flash flooding, plus all the other breaking news there's going on. There's world events going on right now that we'll catch you up on as well. And a lot of things going on nationally. So make sure you tune in tonight on WCNC or WCNC Plus. Thanks again for joining us tonight.